Hokage I'll become stronger when I'm fishing. Chapter 121-140. Chapter 121. Outbreak, Awakened Fruit of the Line. Damn. Doflamingo in the palace, his arms are arrogant with a dark armament. Only by firmly supporting the walls on both sides can we resist the shock wave that fell terribly. Although in the end due to the entanglement of the 2-0 division captains, he got rid of it. But at this moment, Doflamingo also clearly realized that even with the assistance of 2-0 division captains, he could no longer hide his strength. Otherwise, I am afraid I will be tortured and killed by Yagami Kangdu. Boom! Yagami Kangdu raised his feet, wanting to come back to the day tiger. A strange force suddenly enveloped the entire ruins. The ruins started from the bottom, turned into white threads one by one, and finally spread to the top. The thread fruit awakens. Have it finally exploded? In all aspects is not as good as the Admiral of the Navy. Only by using the fruit to awaken, can you be qualified to fight with the generals, but it is only the qualification to fight. If you don't use the fruit, you want to fight against him. Doflamingo inside the castle looked very depressed. He didn't want to reveal the ability of fruit awakening. The awakened line fruit, whether it is strength or defense, will surge to a terrifying level, and it is his real trump card. In the face of Yagami Kangdu's outrageous strength, he had to reveal this strength. Wild waves and white lines. Now that it has been exposed, Doflamingo, who has a heroic temperament, will naturally not be immersed in dullness. His murderous intention is awe-inspiring, and he is determined to kill Yagami Kangdu here. Under his control, it will become the ruins of the castle with white silk threads entangled in the direction of Yagami Kangdu in an instant. The endless white silk threads seemed to be transformed into waves, and the frenzied surging swept through. Day Tiger. Facing the incoming white silk thread, Yagami Soto stretched out his hands. The white tiger that suddenly formed chakra roared and swept towards the white silk thread. Kai! The white silk thread that was surging over by the day tiger shattered in the blink of an eye. All the way through to the earth, bombarding the ground into a huge scorched black pit. The first half of the white silk thread stopped in the air and collapsed. But it quickly reconvened in the next instant, and bombarded Yagami Kangdu again. 4. Lion Fruit, awakening means qualitative change. Today's Doflamingo is still inferior to Yagami Kangdu in terms of attack, but the gap is not very big. As for physique, the gap between Doflamingo and Yagami Kangdu is too huge. However, Doflamingo's advantage is domineering. In front of this level of existence, there are very few characters who are good at all aspects. Most of them are highlighted in one or two of speed, body, attack, etc. Whether the speed is stronger or the strength is stronger cannot be judged. Looking at the white waves, Yagami Kangdu's eyes flickered. Beyond the blue steam, huge skeletons began to appear. The complete body Susanoo was formed in an instant. What's the matter? What is this? Of Don Quixote were stunned. I have never seen such an attack method by Susanoo before, and it is so huge that it even exceeds the scope of the giants. At least, it's also at the level of a sea king. Not knowing the horror of others, Yagami Kangdu's controller, Crimson Red Complete Body Susanoo, moved. Waving the sword of 10 fists, it fell directly into the white waves. Boom, boom, boom. Under the sharp slashing of the 10-fist swords, the threads kept blasting and gathering. Inside the ruined castle line, which was affected by the string line fruit, there were constant bursts of dull roars. Two captains of Division 0 looked at each other for a while when they saw this scene. About half a minute, the roaring sound stopped. White line waves suddenly exploded, and I saw the figure of Doflamingo, flying upside down from the white line. There was obvious blood on the corners of his mouth. Whoosh! The figure of Yagami Sudo followed closely behind, rushing out of the restored castle ruins and continuing to attack Doflamingo. Before rushing to the front, he directly punched out. Doflamingo unleashes the wall of spiders, removing some of the impact. The back smashed into a building, and the line fruit ability was activated. The building turned into a white line and continued to attack Yagami Kangdu. Quote. The two captains not far away rushed up directly. Doflamingo showed special power, but he was still not the opponent of Yagami Kangdu. They don't take action. Doflamingo may be completely cold. At this moment, that Dressrosa was in chaos and it was completely reduced to a battlefield had already been passed on to the Navy headquarters. Listening to the report on the battlefield over there, Warring States rubbed his brows with a headache. If he had been more decisive and dispatched the admiral in advance, he would not have caused such trouble. But now, there are two captains of Division 0, so there shouldn't be too much problem. As long as the yellow monkey arrives in time, the situation will be brought back under control. For him. Although Doflamingo is also trash at sea, he is the King Shichibukai who signed an agreement with the government. Is absolutely not allowed to be defeated by Yagami Kanto just like that. Are all pirates, but no matter how dark the existence of Doflamingo is, at least on the bright side it is beneficial to the balance of the sea. Of Yagami Kangdu broke the balance and even brought huge trouble to their naval government. The world government and the navy were once disgraced, and Yagami Kangdu must never be allowed to continue sailing. Shield white line. Doflamingo waved his hands, and the ground surged with white tides like waves, blocking the fist of Yagami Kangdu. Bang! The fist fell, the line wave twisted and collapsed. Doflamingo folded his arms in front of him, displaying a domineering look of armament. Resisting the aftermath of Yuhu's impact, and then flicking his finger, the silk thread behind Yagami Kangdu slammed around him. Originally, those with the ability to line and line fruit are good at aerial combat, but in front of Yagami Soto, aerial combat is obviously a stupid tactic. Doflamingo was keenly aware that Yagami Soto seemed to be able to walk flat in the air. He decisively gave up air combat and turned to ground combat with the help of his awakened power. Iron punch. The captain let out a cold cry, and threw his fist at Kangdu Iori. Wrapped in enormous pressure, and bombed towards Yagami Kangdu's back. Yagami Kanto waved his hand to break up Doflamingo's entangled thread, and then a huge fireball burst out. Huo Dunhao Fireball Technique. Today's Yagami Kangdu not only does not need a seal to perform ninjutsu, but his power far exceeds his own level of ninjutsu. Facing the terrifying fireball, the sub-commander who was as strong as Zero changed his face and gave up his plan to support Doflamingo. Repelling the two sub-commanders, Yagami Soto continued towards Doflamingo. Filu reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 122. World-class scandal, the truth that was made public. After Doflamingo used Fruit Awakening, his strength was only slightly worse than Yagami Kangdu, who had not fully exploded. In the case of a Zero Division captain, Doflamingo was barely able to cope. The other side. Many cadres of the Don Quixote family, the top cadres joined hands, and there was a squad leader to assist, only able to block the 555 giant clan of the new giant pirates. None of them thought that these seemingly fragile giants actually possess such terrifying strength. Everyone is brave. Blue Steam, it is Yagami Kangdu who changed the physique of the giants with his own cells. Coupled with the natural physical quality of their giants, they can barely open the 7th of the 8 doors. The power of the giants bursting with blue steam has risen more than a little bit. As the giant clan your trump card. They are indeed very strong. 5 people blocked almost all of my cadres. However, it doesn't seem to be that easy to kill Dressrosa just like that. Doflamingo teamed up with a Team Zero captain to deal with the Yagami Kangta, although it was slightly insufficient, but it was barely able to support it. Aware of the situation on the other side, he couldn't help but let out a wicked smile, trying to influence Yagami Kangdu's mind. However, everything was within Yagami Kanto's expectations. He didn't panic at all, and naturally he wouldn't be affected by Doflamingo's words. With the physical strength of the 8th gate Dunjia 7th shocking gate, just go on a rampage. He went. It was devastating. Even the white line of the awakening shield that Doflamingo used with all his strength could only block it a little. Boom! Suddenly, Yagami Kangdu punched out. Doflamingo used his shield white line and was instantly scattered. But because Yagami Kangdu's speed is too fast, and the impact is too strong. Even if Doflamingo used the shield white line to block the attack in time, his body still flew out uncontrollably. This blow made Doflamingo vomit blood. The confident smile that was originally evil and charming suddenly stopped abruptly. Instead, a face full of gloom and pain. PFF'd. A mouthful of blood was sprayed, and Doflamingo's complexion became even paler. Keep smiling. Yagami Kangdu withdrew his fist indifferently, fought back the interference of the 0th Division captain with his backhand, and rushed towards Doflamingo again. Doflamingo's face was gloomy, and the whole person fell into the edge of rage. Once upon a time, someone dared to treat themselves with such contempt. Showing the color of anger, he waved his hands violently, and countless threads gathered. 10 extremely thick spikes turned out, and the tips were even more domineering with a dark purple armed color. Don't be too arrogant. Holy bullet. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The holy bullet that condensed the penetrating power of terror shot out in an instant. Blasted towards Yagami Kangdu, covering all of Yagami Kangdu's evasion range. Yagami Kangdu was not afraid and moved forward. Probing hands grabbed a few white threads and pulled them fiercely to both sides, and the silk threads were torn abruptly. The battle is still going on. And just when Doflamingo gathered his mind and planned to fight with Yagami Kanto with all his strength, a strange force suddenly swept away from Tangji's underground, and spread to the entire island in an instant. Underground factory. Nina stood there smiling, next to another Yagami Kangdu. After devouring the fruit of the Ninja World God Tree, Yagami Kangdu's shadow clone has long since been elevated to the level of forbidden art. Although the strength is not enough, it still has 50%. In the face of such a raid, it was enough. Not far from the two of them, there was Sugar, who was foaming at the mouth and fainted on the ground. Other side, there was Torapal with an extremely ugly face. As for this war to attack Dressrosa, Yagami Sudo, from the very beginning, had already formulated a meticulous plan. Don Quixote family, all the fighting power, were paid attention to by Yagami Kanto. And, a targeted battle plan is given. Can say. So far as within the expected range. If you know everything about the Don Quixote family, you know all the cards of Doflamingo. Who are you? Anger and panic appeared on Torapal's face. He had no idea that the Yagami pirates would know about Sugar. This is a big trouble. Dressrosa, the country of pirates, or the country of toys, has always been a symbol of light. It is also a part of the government's support for the legal plundering of Wangxiaqiwahai, which can suppress the merits of all fishing reels. However, once the darkness hidden under the light is exposed, this so-called merit will turn into a huge scandal. Not only can it instantly destroy King Doflamingo's position in the Shichibukai, but it will also seriously damage the government's prestige. On the ground. That gushed out after the sugar coma didn't have any effect on Yagami Soto and the others. The scary thing is that all changed into toys, forgotten humans, one by one returned to their original form. What's the matter? When Doflamingo noticed this, his expression changed instantly. The captain noticed the change, and also showed a surprised look. Toys are made by humans, even they don't know it. All beings that have been turned into toys, all memory of them will disappear. Of Sugar can be said to be the biggest secret of the Don Quixote family. Yagami Kanto laughed lightly, looking at Doflamingo's face mockingly. Doflamingo suddenly turned his head and looked at Kangdu Yagami. The pupils under the sunglasses shrank violently, his face became very gloomy, and his heart was even more heavy. There is no doubt that something happened to the Sugar. For the sake of safety, he specially dispatched Torapal to protect the Sugar in secret and not participate in the frontal battle. Originally it was just to be safe, but I didn't expect that something really happened. But how did Yagami Kingta know the secret of sugar? Doflamingo is no longer as calm as before. Once sugar happens, Dressrosa's shady secret will be exposed to the whole world in an instant. The influence of fishing reels will put a lot of pressure on the world government. At that time, his Chiwahai identity will definitely not be preserved. The resulting series of consequences are unimaginable. Never let all this exposed. Doflamingo gritted his teeth secretly, his heart heavy with surprise. His thoughts were racing, and a decision was made in his heart. Even if this island is completely destroyed, everyone will be wiped out. There is a dark story about the country of toys, and it must not be exposed to the whole world. Bird cage. While blocking Yagami Kingta's attack, he suddenly opened his hand and lifted it upwards. In an instant, a bunch of white lines surged up from the earth and gathered towards the sky. Then it is divided into countless threads, covering the entire island. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Filu novel. Chapter 123. The disguise that was torn off, shocked the world. Doflamingo, what are you doing? The captain's face turned pale, and he shouted violently. He doesn't know about sugar, but he knows the ability of bird cages. Doflamingo said with a cold face, everything here must not be leaked, you should be very clear about this. Even if you ask the 5 old stars now, the answer you get won't make any difference. ... The captain's eyes flashed a few times. That's right. Who are listed as the king's 7 wuhai, who have concluded a treaty with the government, have a situation that has a great impact on their subordinates, it will indeed cause great damage to the face of the world government. The government's first resort must be to do everything in its power to prevent the spread of the scandal and cover it up. If it really can't be stopped, then the demon slaughter order will definitely be used to bury all the scandals at the bottom of the sea. Bird cage. Yagami Kanto looked up at the sky, at the birdcage that enveloped Dressrosa, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Everything, including this step so far, has gone according to his expectations perfectly. Killing Doflamingo is only one of the purposes of this trip, and the other purpose is to let the government and the navy know what price will be paid for being an enemy of him. It is almost. At the moment when the bird cage enveloped the entire Dressrosa, a small boat has been docked on the shore of Dressrosa, a few people's shadow came out. These, all are the shadow clones of Yagami Kangdu. Looking at the bird cage from a distance, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. At the next moment, the shadow avatars of Yagami Kangdu took out the video phone bug. Some hovered directly in midair, while others ran along the edge of Dressrosa. The birdcage can cut off all radio connections within the island, which is Doflamingo's ultimate means of covering up everything. But it has a fatal problem, which is that it has no effect on the outside of the island. Just as the cam worm starts working, at the same time. Chambord Islands. The Kingdom of Thespud. Friam Island. There are 7 or 8, all of which are the most prosperous areas on a large island. Everything about Dressrosa's life was projected live. My God, what the hell is this? What a strange image, what is this picture? Many civilians saw the image, strange at first, and soon saw the inside of the birdcage-like island. Countless hack-and-slash scenes in the streets. Who have changed from toys to humans include ordinary civilians and scouts from various forces. There are even members of the Revolutionary Army, the Navy and the world government. At this moment, all fell into chaos and fighting. It looks like Dressrosa there. It's that. How did the country of toys become like this? Countless people looked at the picture in the projection, and their faces were all shocked. Sunny country that has been published countless times in the newspapers has become such a hell. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves. Almost in just a few minutes, the projection began to be spread all over the world. The scope of this time is too wide, and by the time the world government reacts, it will be too late. This is the so-called country of passion and passion that is developing extremely fast and building a perfect country of pirates. Oh my god. What the hell did the world government and the Navy do? Countless people clenched their fists, and some were full of anger. Fear, bewilderment, and mixed emotions continue to spread all over the world. Navy headquarters. Damn. Sengoku looked at the transferred picture, and slapped his palm on the table. Table shattered suddenly, and the warring states burst out and shouted, "Who can tell me what the hell that bastard Doflamingo is doing? Has the yellow monkey arrived yet?" At the same time, the highest levels of world government. The complexion of Wu Laoxing was also extremely difficult to see. This kind of picture is broadcast to the world, it is simply throwing the face of the world government on the ground and trampling on it. Doflamingo's demise will also annihilate, and even if the 8 gods pirates are doubled in strength, they still can't compare to the power of the 4 emperors. In the eyes of the 5 old stars, it is not a big deal. However, the impact of such a bad incident can be said to be unprecedented. It is the worst situation since they came to power. The losses caused cannot be measured by such things as combat power. No one could have imagined that such a bad situation would happen to Dressrosa. I didn't even expect that the 8 gods pirates would broadcast all this to the world in a live broadcast. The 5 people began to think about how to deal with the aftermath almost immediately. That has spread to such a wide range is not something that can deceive the people by making up a little lie. Idiot, hurry up and cut off the signal. 5. Lord 5 Old Stars, there are too many locations for the signal to be distributed, and it is difficult to cut off all of them at the first time. Someone spoke with a terrified expression. Wu Laoxing gritted his teeth and said, "Then hurry up and let the Navy also dispatch, and the impact must be minimized." At this moment, the broadcast picture started to get worse and worse. Doflamingo's attempt to slaughter the entire island has revealed the purpose of the cover-up. The government's subordinates assisted, and even Lieutenant General Virgo, a traitor representing the Navy, was assisting Doflamingo's bloody massacre. Let Zero and the Navy people stop doing it. No, there is no signal, so I can't contact them at all. Doflamingo's birdcage now completely seals off Dressrosa's interior. The 2 sub-commanders, the Navy and others could not hear the government's orders and signals at all. They were just fighting hard, not knowing that everything was being broadcast all over the world. At this moment, someone stumbled in and said, "No, it's also being broadcast on Kur Island." Coat Island. What? Wu Laoxing's complexion changed greatly. It has been almost 15 minutes since the incident broke out. Broadcasting has not been completely eliminated, and the situation has become more and more serious. It's the Revolutionary Army, damn bastards. There are high-level gnashing openings. At this time, not only the Revolutionary Army, but also those forces who were oppressed by the government and hated the government, all keenly seize the opportunity. That can cause heavy damage to the government does not need to be desperate at all, why not do it? In a short period of time, the scope of the broadcast has not only failed to be contained, but has become larger and larger. Spread all over the world, and it can no longer be unstoppable. The entire Dressrosa battlefield is placed in front of the world just like that. Facing the world, Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 124. Dying Struggle, Doflamingo's Last Hope. Inside the bird cage. Except Yagami Kanto and others, no one knows what is happening now. Whether it's Doflamingo, Zero, or Virgo. I don't know where you got the information and know Dressrosa's secret. Yagami Kangdu, everything is caused by you, so this island can only be completely buried. Doflamingo spoke coldly. Both hands, the entire street turned into countless white threads, swept toward Yagami Kangdu frantically. Bang! Yagami Kangdu was suspended in midair, and with a backhand wave, the white silk thread was directly shattered by the shock wave. It's almost time. Did not tell Doflamingo what happened, and did not tell Zero what happened. All the enemies on this island, Yagami Soto never cared. The beginning, he had the ability to kill Zero and Doflamingo in seconds, so why let him use the awakened line fruit to delay time? What he wants is a wave that spreads all over the world, slaps the face of the world government and the Navy severely. Since they claim to be righteous, then expose their hypocrisy. The 8th dead door. Red steam erupts. Yagami Kangdu erupted a shock wave towards Doflamingo, and before anyone arrived, a roaring shock wave swept out. Om. The void is constantly rippling, and it rushes down suddenly. Under the influence of the sonic boom, Doflamingo has difficulty controlling the ability of the line to awaken. In the face of Yagami Kangdu's blow, he couldn't even use the shield white line to defend. He could only put his arms on top of his head, displaying his armed domineering arrogance, trying to resist Yagami Kangdu's attack. But with his armament alone, even Luffy's 4th gear can't be resisted. And Yagami Kangdu's current attack power is more than just a block out of Luffy's 4th gear. Boom! The ground beneath Doflamingo's feet suddenly collapsed, and a huge punch was thrown with a sudden punch. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and his entire body was slightly distorted and smashed to the bottom of the pit with a bang. Damn! When the captain saw this scene, his face changed drastically. I don't know what happened to Doflamingo, but to endure such a blow, I am afraid that at least it will be a serious injury. This is a big trouble. Diamandi sensed the crisis and tried to rush over to help. Forcibly stopped by Cyrus, who had turned from a toy into a human form, who rushed out of the darkness. An outside detachment tried to rush over, but was attacked violently by Helding. Contained in midair, there is no way to get rid of it in the face of absolute power. As for Virgo and others, they are all farther away to help. Cough, cough. At the bottom of the pit, Doflamingo's sunglasses shattered. He coughed violently, blood dripping from his mouth. That Yagami Kangdu didn't fully display his abilities to him from beginning to end. Blue steam, red steam, is not a concept at all. He was forced to use his armed color to resist, but he couldn't stop it, and he was seriously injured. Shield white line. Seeing the figure of Yagami Kangdu swooping down from the sky, Doflamingo took a strong breath and displayed his shield white line. At the same time, the spider's nest is stimulated, and the double defense resists the attack of Yagami Kangdu. Of thread and thread fruit to try to repair the injury on his body, and use thread to temporarily restrain and replace his distorted muscles and bones. Boom, boom, Yagami Kangdu fell with a punch, and half of the shield white line collapsed. Another punch fell, and the white line of the shield completely collapsed. Immediately after stepping down, the countless spider webs in the spider's nest showed a terrifying twist, sinking toward the bottom of the pit. Captain tried to help, but Yagami Soto punched his backhand, directly breaking his ribs. He himself is not the opponent of Yagami Kangdu, even if it is full of power. It was also in the case of Doflamingo that he was restraining Yagami Kangdu. He was able to restrain him by virtue of his physique and speed. Whoosh! With a snap of Doflamingo's fingers, the thread cut through the nearby ground. It suddenly flew from one side, and swept away to escape, using the speed to the limit. Yagami Kangdu's samsara eyes had already sensed the direction of Doflamingo's escape. Leisurely followed behind, hanging unhurriedly. Torturing and killing an arrogant character like Doflamingo, killing him directly would be a relief. As cat and mouse play, but it's a great shame to him. Now that he is inside the bird cage, and since he has been injured, Doflamingo has no hope of escaping. However, he was still unwilling to give up. Other words, he didn't believe at all that in his own territory, he was brutally abused like this. He broke out his trump card. Using the awakened thread fruit, and still being so embarrassed, is really unacceptable to him. That's Doflamingo. And Iori Kangdu. The civilians of Dressrosa saw Doflamingo madly fleeing in the sky at this moment. And, following behind, the unhurried Yagami Kanto. By this time, everyone already knew the truth behind Dressrosa. Doflamingo, who was originally very popular, has become the incarnation of evil and darkness. Kill Doflamingo. Hurry up and end this. Looking at the approaching birdcage, many civilians were angry, crying, and praying. Several hours have passed since Iori Soto and his party boarded Dressrosa and fought against the Don Quixote family. As a result, Doflamingo fell into a complete rout. Don Quixote family is also on the verge of collapse. If you want to escape, you have to remove the bird cage, but if you remove the bird cage, everything here will be made public, and you will lose the Don Quixote family and all your status. Yagami Kangdu was chasing after Doflamingo, and said leisurely. Doflamingo is also very aware of the current situation, and he gritted his teeth and penguin car with a gloomy expression. He swears in his heart that if there is a chance, he will make Yagami Kangdu pay the price. But the premise is that he can survive today's crisis. In his view, everything is not without a chance. As long as the Admiral can arrive in time. Following behind Doflamingo, Yagami Kangdu disperses the silk thread that Doflamingo used to defend from time to time. The terrifying impact force shattered the thread, and Yue slammed into Doflamingo's back. Doflamingo staggered in midair, blood spurting wildly from his mouth. The whole person flew forward and crashed through a building. With an ugly face, he forcibly changed direction and continued to escape. Whoosh, whoosh. Yagami Kangdu wants this effect. Let Doflamingo enjoy the feeling of being on the edge of death at any time. And all this, of course, is seen by people all over the world. Chapter 125. Mission completed, kill Doflamingo. Chased after Doflamingo, walking through the streets. Yagami Kangdu shot and broke the cobwebs made by Doflamingo. Pulling closer, he threw another punch. Boom! Doflamingo's entire body leaned forward, and blood spurted out again. This time, he was finally unable to escape, and the whole person staggered and fell to the side. Doflamingo just landed on the edge of the birdcage. And the center of the birdcage is also shrinking here. He barely stumbled to the ground. But just when he landed, an inadvertent glance made him stunned. Because the birdcage has been shrunk a lot, there is not much space left. And just outside the birdcage, he saw a figure. Suspended in the void, holding a phone bug in his hand, recording something in this direction. Doflamingo was stunned. He is a man of strategy and calculation, and almost instantly, a terrible thought appeared in his mind. Could it be that everything about Dressrosa is being broadcast live? At the same time, Soto Yagami also fell behind Doflamingo. Quote. Doflamingo turned his head with a stiff expression, and looked at Iori Kanto in astonishment. From the beginning to the moment, he had completely lost the chance to escape, and he had no fear of Yagami Kanto. But after realizing everything about Dressrosa, it was actually recorded by the camera phone bug outside the birdcage. In Doflamingo's heart, a huge fear rose up. How could this be? It's not a power gap, it's a horrible feeling that everything is in the hands of others. Everything about yourself is dominated by others, step by step into the trap of others. Doflamingo's body was stiff and his heart was cold. As for him, who is very good at asking himself, the only person who can make him feel this way is the Chief of Staff of the Navy Headquarters, Tsuru. And now, Yagami Kangdu actually brought him such a feeling. Yagami Kanto looked at Doflamingo calmly and did not explain anything. Just taking a step forward, a fist fell heavily. It's time for things to end now. Doflamingo has completely lost the ability to resist now. Boom! A shock wave with huge force caused the ground to burst, and Doflamingo's head disappeared. Only a headless body remained, lying in a pool of blood. Successfully kill Wangxia Chiwahai, Tianyasha, Doflamingo, reward 500 bait. Listening to the sound of the system prompt coming from his ear, Yagami Kangdu smiled slightly. With Doflamingo's death, Dressrosa's bird cage quickly collapsed. This scene was clearly broadcast to all parts of the world. Watching the bird cage dissipate, Yagami Kangdu's points. The camera phone bug flew a little closer to Yagami Kangdu. Yagami Kangdu looked at the camera phone bug. His face was calm. Everyone should have seen everything about Dressrosa. I'm not a good person, and I just don't like the face of the world government. They preach, and you should understand it without further ado. Leaving such a sentence, Yagami Kanto turned around and disappeared into the ruined street. Camera phone bug was not turned off and continued to film the ruins of Dressrosa. On the chaotic battlefield in front of the palace, there is a Zero Squad leader left. Almost as soon as the birdcage disappeared, the phone bug on his body rang rapidly. What did you say? Hearing the news from the phone bug, the complexion hidden under the mask changed instantly. I just felt a chill surge from my head to my feet, and boundless fear enveloped the surroundings. As the sub-commander of Zero, of course, I know the seriousness of the matter. If everything about Dressrosa is made public throughout the entire process, what impact will it have? This is probably a real heavy blow to the world government in the past 800 years. The bird cage has disappeared. On the other side, Virgo, who is wearing the Admiral Justice's cloak, looked at the birdcage that disappeared in the sky, and his heart sank. It meant when the bird cage disappeared. And at this moment, the phone bug rang on him. Silence, I answered the phone bug, and on the other side came the cold, suppressed anger like a volcano erupting. Lieutenant General Virgo, you will pay the price for your stupidity. Quote. After hearing the news from the other side of the phone bug, Virgo, like Zero and others, instantly went cold from head to toe. Even if Doflamingo is defeated, as long as people are still alive, with the identity of the original Tianlong people and the core of the Dark World trading, there is still a chance to make a comeback. However, if everything that happened in Dressrosa was made public, so many flamenco would be over. Such a bad incident cannot be afforded by the world government. With the behavior of the world government, this matter will definitely be avoided. All pushed to Doflamingo, in order to do the best possible to save the face of the world government. It's over. Virgo froze in place, knowing that this time was completely over. Dressrosa's battle continues, and after killing Doflamingo, Yagami Sudo participates in the annihilation of the Don Quixote family. The remaining Zero Division captain decisively gave up the Don Quixote family and fled one step ahead. The clone of Yagami Aoto cooperated with this Nina, and successfully killed Torapol. The other side. Without Doflamingo and the two captains of Division Zero, the remaining members of the Don Quixote family were completely unable to resist the offensive of Helding and others. What's more, there is Yagami Kangdu to help. Almost in an instant, Don Quixote was almost completely abolished. The cadres were basically killed and wounded. Whoosh! The figure of Yagami Kanto flashed by, and a shock wave swept across Pika's rock giant. With Pika's death, the Don Quixote family was completely destroyed. Brother Kangdu, this is what you want. Just when the ground battle was almost over, Nina came out of the ruins. Holding a small box in his hand, the box is filled with sugar. Well done. Yagami Soto nodded at Nina. The ability of granulated sugar has a great effect at some point. It's time to go. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Yagami Kanto gave the order to retreat. Matter is almost settled, the naval warships are about to arrive, there is no need to waste time with them. But just as the group of people crossed the ruined street and quickly retreated towards the coast. The dazzling golden light cut through the sky, from the shore of Dressrosa, shuttled through the ruins of Dressrosa at an incredible speed. The Navy Headquarters, Kizaru. Feilu reminds you. 3 things to read, collect, recommend, and share. Chapter 126. Dark Curtain, the Dark Side of the Navy. You go first. Seeing the golden light rushing after him, Yagami Kangdu's expression did not change. At Kizaru's speed, it will be a matter of time to arrive here. As early as the Chambord Islands, he already knew the strength of the Yellow Monkey. Even if you hide something, there is nothing that can stop you. Then we will withdraw first. Captain, be careful. Nina and others are well aware of how huge the gap between them and the Admiral is. I really want to stay, but it's just a drag on Yagami Kangdu. Better to leave first, so that Yagami Kangdu can let go of his hands and feet. Whoosh! Kizaru's eyes flashed. Of course he wouldn't let everyone evacuate easily. A golden light flashed, trying to go directly in front of everyone and stop everyone. Yagami Kangdu also moved at the same time, and the red steam erupted, blocking Kyabu. Iori Kangdu, you are really troublesome, can't you give me less trouble? Who was stopped, frowned with an old face. The tone is still the habitual kind of wretched voice, but the expression on his face is very depressed. Kill the Tianlong people, defeat Shichibukai Doflamingo, broadcast the Dressrosa incident to the world. This one thing is getting worse and worse, not to mention him. Even the Warring States period will be ruthless by the 5 old stars severely reprimanded. The 8 gods Kangdu looked at Kizaru and said in a calm tone, I'm just an ordinary person, aren't you the ones who are chasing after them? Quote. Ordinary Kiwis showed a shameless expression on you. An ordinary person, who dared to kill the world's noble Tianlong, an ordinary person, who has the strength of a Navy admiral who regretted him, an ordinary person who destroyed the entire Dressrosa, Chamber T archipelago, in a short time. Was reprimanded severely. I can only arrest you this time, otherwise this old man won't be able to explain to the world government. Kizaru knew that Yagami Kangdu was stalling for time, but he didn't plan to bypass Yagami Kangdu to chase after Nina and the others. Whoosh! The moment the voice fell, Kizaru took a step forward. A golden light swayed his legs and kicked at Yagami Kangdu's face. The speed is so fast that most people can't even notice what happened. At this speed, even Yagami Kangdu, who has opened the 7th gate, can barely keep up. But with the ability of Samsara Eye, to detect in advance and then counterattack, the problem is not very big. Bang! Yagami Kangdu took a step forward, and the shock wave slammed out fiercely. Kizaru's surprise attack was forcibly restrained by the shock wave of the Day Tiger. Immediately afterwards, Yagami Kangdu kicked back. The whip leg wrapped in the shock wave kicked Huang at a tricky angle. Kizaru's body instantly collapsed and then condensed on the right side of Yagami Kangdu. Fingertips flickered, shooting out 4 or 5 lasers containing explosive power. Yagami Kangdu's face was calm, and he threw a backhand punch. Boom! In the violent roar, the laser exploded. Kizaru and Yagami Kangdu stepped back at the same time, out of the shadow of the aftermath. This seemingly evenly matched brief confrontation made Kizaru's complexion even more dignified. He knew that the 8 gods Kangdu was very powerful. Back then, when he hid his strength, he was tortured by blood. But it has always hidden its power. Today, the special secret power broke out, but found that it was still unable to gain the upper hand. In Kyabu's view, this must be the improvement of Yagami Kangdu's strength. A significant increase in strength in such a short period of time is simply terrifying. How did he do it? The speed of strength improvement is so fast, if you continue to let you sail, the world government is really dangerous. Kizaru tilted his face, and his figure suddenly turned into a ray of light. Bullied the back of Yagami Kangdu and kicked at a very fast speed, forcing Yagami Kangdu to wave his arms to resist. Boom! The golden light exploded, like the blow of a heavy artillery, instantly destroying a ruin. Zephyr commented that the yellow ape relies too much on fruits and sparse body techniques. But Kizaru's shiny fruit has the qualifications for him to rely on. Of his laser explosion made his every move with great power. Smoke filled the air, and the figure of Yagami Kanto appeared. He took a kick from the yellow monkey, and he was completely unharmed. Almost at the moment of appearance, the void ripples constantly, and Yagami Kangdu appeared in the sky above Kyabu. The shock wave of a punch of the Day Tiger slammed down, and Kizaru only felt goosebumps all over his body. Instantly turned into golden light and performed extreme evasion. Elementalizing this method in advance, as a naval admiral, has no reason not to. Heaven Kong Yunjian. After avoiding Yagami Kengta's attack, Kizaru wiped his hands. Dazzling golden light gathered together, turned into a golden sword, and slashed towards the Eight Gods Kangdu. Eight Gods Kangdu was not afraid, and slammed it out with another punch. Boom! The two attacks collided, and the pressure of terror swept through. The Day Tiger shock wave collided with the flashing explosion, making a violent roar. Huang Yuan's eyes flashed, and he bullied him again. Using the extremely fast speed, he constantly collided with Yagami Kengta. In terms of attack, the glitter fruit is an extremely powerful fruit ability. Coupled with the fact that it was developed to the limit by Kizaru, it's actually a battle with Yagami Kangdu of the century between the two was recorded by the camera phone bug. Was broadcast to the world. That's Admiral Kizaru. Even the Admiral was dispatched just to deal with the Yagami Soto. It's really a righteous navy. Quote. Someone looked at the scene in the picture and couldn't help but sneer. It is not so simple to fool ordinary people. Under the current situation, the world government and the Navy simply cannot fool this matter in a short period of time. Because of Dressrosa's incident, its prestige has fallen off a cliff in the eyes of the common people all over the world. Run away. Don't let the Navy catch it. There are a few radical civilians who even stand on the side of Yagami Kanto. This idea is a very dire omen for the Navy and the world government. When the people no longer support the Navy, but support the pirates in turn, then what is justice? Kizaru knows that his current battle with Yagami Kangdu is still being broadcast. But he had no choice. It is impossible to let Iori Sudo escape from Dressrosa, so Iori Soto must be arrested here. Anyway, as long as Yagami Kanto is arrested, they will have a way to suppress the fishing reels. Put all the blame on Doflamingo and Yagami Soto, and use the time to slowly play down the impact of this incident. It doesn't matter how dark the process is, the Navy only needs the result. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu's novel. Chapter 127, Fierce Battle, Retreat. Boom, boom, Yagami Kangdu and Kizaru continue to fight in the sky. From time to time, a golden light aftershock splashes out, and when it falls on the ground, it will cause an explosion, and even hurt civilians. People all over the world, seeing such a scene in the picture, have a worse impression of the Navy. In fact, Yagami Kanto also caused damage to civilians during the battle. But many people choose to ignore it. A bad person who has done bad things all his life, suddenly does something good one day, will be considered to be reformed. But a good man does good things all his life, and one day he does bad things, and he becomes a hypocrite. Today's Navy and government have undoubtedly become such an image. All the spearheads are pointed sharply at the Navy and the world government. Boom. With one move, he repelled Kyabu, and Yagami Kangdu swayed and flew towards the coast. Nina and the others have already boarded the boat and have left the coast for some distance. Now just need him to evacuate, and everything is as expected. He had no intention of killing Kizaru, and he was a general anyway, so he had some ability to save his life. What's more, Kizaru is the champion of the three generals in the water, and it is uncertain when he will rebel against the world government. Keep it, maybe it will be more effective. This time, I will never let you escape again. Kizaru understood Yagami Kangdu's plan, light flashed in his eyes, and his wrist turned. A beam of light shot out from between his hands and bounced across the ruined street. Yatagara Mirror. The light almost instantly passed over Yagami Kangdu in the air, and after a reflection, it appeared right in front of Yagami Kangdu. And Kizaru disappeared out of thin air, suddenly came to the front of Yagami Kangdu, and kicked it violently. Iori Kangdu's expression remained unchanged, the 5 fingers of his right hand folded together, and he suddenly threw a punch. Boom! After fighting against Kyabu, Yagami Kangdu fought and retreated, continuing to retreat towards the coast. However, Kizaru didn't seem to block his thoughts, just delaying his flight to the coast. even used all means to slow down his speed. Under the delay of Kizaru's full strength, the speed of Yagami Kingdu really slowed down a lot. At his speed, from the battle position to the coast, he can reach it in at most 10 seconds. But under the delay of Kizaru's full force, it was abruptly delayed for more than 10 minutes. At first, Yagami Kingdu thought that Kizaru was unwilling to let him escape, and tried his best to stop him. But as the battle continued, he sensed something was wrong. Kazuna, this guy. Yagami Kingdu sensed something was wrong, so there was no point in delaying. He can still leave in the end, unless Kyabu is waiting for someone. What kind of person can play a key role in such a situation, but the distance from the Navy headquarters is at least a few days away. The Navy Council anticipated the situation a few days ago and sent 2 admirals to Dressrosa. It's almost impossible, not to mention that the world government sent Zero to ambush in advance. Even if there is no Zero, send an admiral. Several mid-range future Dressrosa of the headquarters are already outstanding. What exactly is Kizaru delaying? What Yagami Kingdu is waiting for in a short period of time? 1 minute, 2 minutes. After about 6 or 7 minutes, Yagami Soto came to the shore of Dressrosa. At this time, Nina and the others had already sailed away from the coast. They knew very well that Kizaru alone would definitely not be able to stop Yagami Kingdu. If they could leave early, then Yagami Kingdu wouldn't need to escape with them. After a reckless fight with Kizaru, Yagami Kingdu headed, rushing towards the sea below. Already at sea, Kizaru could not stop Yagami Kingdu from diving into the bottom of the sea no matter what. But, almost as the Yagami Kingdu swooped toward the sea level, a vast and terrifying sword energy suddenly attacked from the sea far away. Just one sword, an abyss was cut into the sea nearly 1,000 meters away. The sword energy rose from the sea and slashed towards the Yagami Kingdu who was swooping over the sea. Seeing this sword energy, Yagami Kingdu raised his brows slightly. He thought of the Golden Lion for the first time, but this sword energy gave him a completely different feeling from the Golden Lion. Day Tiger. Yagami Kingdu did not hesitate, and smashed the sword chi that attacked with a ruthless punch. After blasting the sword energy abruptly, he continued to rush towards the sea. It's finally here. At the moment when the sword energy appeared, the expression on Kyabu finally loosened. That face that was always solemn, finally showed the usual ease and wretchedness. After Yagami Kingdu blocked the sword energy, his figure flickered, blocking the front of Yagami Kingdu again. Day Tiger. Yagami Kingdu's expression remained unchanged, even though he knew that he might be trapped in the siege of Kizaru. The shock wave erupted violently. In an instant, the entire sea was turned upside down, and the sea water with a radius of nearly 1,000 meters rolled up in a terrifying way. The yellow monkey's face changed greatly, and he was forced to avoid it to one side. He is a devil fruit person, and if he is caught by this sea water, it will be a direct defeat. Whoosh! Controlling the sea water to push back Kizaru, Yagami Kingdu continued to charge towards the sea. And almost as he approached the sea, the sword energy that had appeared before broke through the sea again. The distance sent this time is obviously much closer than before, and the power is also much greater. Iori Kingdu didn't panic at all, and slammed it out with another punch. The shock wave of the Day Tiger swept through, collided with the sword energy, and shattered. At the same time, the figure of Yagami Kingdu flashed, about to rush into the sea. Seeing that Yagami Kingdu used the means to get rid of the obstruction of Kizaru and the unknown swordsman, a bullet suddenly broke through the sea water and shot at Yagami Kanto. The speed of this bullet is not very fast, but it seems to have predicted the position of Yagami Kingdu in advance, and it contains a very deep layer of armed domineering. The third person. Yagami Kingdu frowned slightly, finally got a little interested. Expected Kizaru to appear, but he did not expect that there would be 3 level existences. There is no doubt that this bullet was not released by the unknown swordsman. The bullet that was very close, Yagami Soto chose to dodge. Successfully dodge and continue to rush into the sea. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 bullets broke through the sea again, and attacked Yagami Kangdu in different directions. The pure power of these bullets is not very large, but it seems that all the reactions and dodging movements of Yagami Kanto have been predicted in advance. Each one hits the most difficult point for Yagami Kangdu to deal with. Seeing and hearing is the ultimate. Predict the future. This thought flashed in Yagami Kangdu's mind, but under the pressure of 3 bullets, he was unable to rush into the sea after all. And when the waves finally slowly subsided, the 2 who sent out the sword energy and shot the bullet finally showed their bodies. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 128, The Crane Staff, will kill the critical situation. It was a warship. The flag of the Chief of Staff, Crane, is hoisted on the warship. On the deck of the warship, Crane stood in the center. On the left is a woman in a justice cloak with pink sleeves, holding the famous sword Jinpyra in her hand, and is looking towards this side calmly. Navy Headquarters, Admiral Candidate. Tautu. Standing on Crane's right is a man in a brown coat with his hands in his trouser pockets. With a cigarette in his mouth, he smiled and looked in the direction of Yagami Kangdu. Navy Headquarters, Admiral Candidate. T. Dolphin. It turned out to be them. Yagami Kanto's eyes were as calm as ever. As a candidate for the Admiral of the Navy Headquarters, it is naturally quite normal to have the strength close to Kizaru. A current Headquarters General, 2 alternate generals whose strength is almost close to Kyabu, and Chief of Staff, whose strength is unknown. In the eyes of others, it must be a desperate situation. However, Yagami Kangdu was not afraid at all. Almost missed. Tautu stood next to the crane, holding the famous sword Jinpyra in his hand, and exhaled. The T-Dolphin said with a smile, "It's not that you almost missed it, it's that you almost didn't stop it. Your swordsmanship has not yet reached home." Peach Rabbit. Crane ignored the 2, she was standing on the deck with her hands on her back, wearing the Navy's righteous cloak. His spine was slightly bent and hunched, and he looked at Yagami Kangdu from a distance. A pair of slightly cloudy eyes seemed to reveal a trace of regret and sigh. She is the one who has been chasing Doflamingo for the longest time. Therefore, after judging that Yagami Sudo's target might be Dressrosa, he immediately. They headed here on their own warships. Tautu is her younger sister, and after hearing about it, she took the initiative to board the boat with her. When the T-Dolphin heard that Tautu was going out, it was also immediately followed up. So, the 3 of them set off together with Kizaru. Kizaru took the lead when Dressrosa was in an emergency, and they had just arrived. Doflamingo will lose, and rightly so. Crane opened his mouth slowly. In her judgment, Yagami Kangdu arranged step by step, making Doflamingo's arrangements clearly. Whether it was strategy or force, Doflamingo was completely defeated by Kangdu Yagami. Yagami Kangdu looked at the crane, but did not speak. In fact, the arrival of the crane was exactly what he expected. But Peach Rabbit and T-Dolphin followed, which was completely beyond his expectations. The situation today is even worse than facing 2 admirals. It's like Qingzi alone, facing the army generals Akainu and Kizaru, plus a clone with almost the same strength as him, not to mention fighting, the possibility of escaping is all. Lieutenant General Simon, you go after the ship of the Yagami pirates. The crane did not divide the 2 combat powers of Tautu and Chado, but directly separated the accompanying fleet into 3 large warships. Besides, Yagami Kangdu, Crane also spared Nina and the others. At this moment, Huang Yuan didn't make a move directly, and Tautu and Cha Dolphin didn't make another move either. Even if the 3 of them didn't do anything, the kind of oppression they brought was huge. It's gotten to the point where it's gone beyond anyone's initial expectations, including me. However, the situation does not allow continued indulgence. Continue to develop, and will inevitably lead to an era of uncontrollable chaos. This era cannot become more chaotic. Crane's warship gradually approached the coast, and she spoke slowly to Yagami Kanto. There were regrets in his eyes. With the ability of Yagami Kangdu, if it can be used by the Navy, it will definitely be a great help. Useless to say these things now. The era of the great pirate has passed 16 years. The future is an irreversible turbulent wave, and sooner or later, the world will be overturned. How long can you hold back? Yagami Kangdu floated on the sea, watching Crane speak calmly. The Crane lowered his eyes to the rough sea and said slowly, "No matter what the future holds, the Navy will always be the representative of justice, and it is necessary to regulate the order of the world, which cannot be changed." Hee. Yagami Kangdu chuckled lightly, unable to deny it. T-Dolphin looked at Kangdu, the 8 gods, and said, "If you don't want to let it go, but that's true, of course you won't be reconciled." Kisararu, Tautu and him, surrounded by the combat power of the 3 people, no one thinks that Yagami Kanto has the possibility of escaping. However, the dignity of being a strong man will naturally not be captured. Whoosh! The yellow monkey took the lead. With a flicker of his figure, he came to the front of Yagami Kangdu and kicked at Yagami Kangdu. Yagami Kangdu slammed out a punch, and the shock wave of the day tiger was agitated. It caused an explosion and a roar on the sea, splashing a monstrous wave, and the whole person slanted into the wave. Crossing the clouds. Tautusu held the handle of the knife lightly in his hand, and walked on the moon, rushing towards the waves. His hand slashed out at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the waves were cut into countless pieces like jelly. In one of the fragments, the figure of Yagami Kangdu was exposed. Kizaru pointed out, and a laser shot through the air and flew towards Kangdu, the 8 gods. Yagami Kangdu grabbed the laser with his backhand, and the water escape and water dragon bomb exploded. Ah! T-Dolphin stood on the deck and sighed, pulled out a musket, and shot continuously in the direction of Yagami Kangdu's dive. Again, based on the extreme judgment of seeing and hearing, every bullet was shot at the weakest point of Yagami Kangdu, forcing Yagami Kangdu to be unable to rush into the sea. Slightly blocked by the T-Dolphin, Tautu and Kyabu continued to charge over. The yellow monkey is obviously the hardest, while the peach rabbit's movements are a little slower. Although her expression was calm, there was still a hint of complexity in her eyes. As for the T-Dolphin, it was purely when Yagami Kangdu broke through the siege of Tautu and Kyabu that he would block it. "Give it up, you can't escape." Seeing that Yagami Kangdu couldn't break through immediately, Tautu shook his head slightly and spoke to him. T-Dolphin also stood in the sky with a moon step, and said, "Faced with the cooperation of the 3 of us, it's already very good that you can achieve this level." The yellow monkey, the T-Dolphin and the others formed a triangle, surrounded the Yagami Kangdu, and opened their mouths. At this moment, were also many civilians gathered at the periphery of the ruins of Dressrosa. They watched the battle not far from the shore, and watched Yagami Aoto alone endure the siege of Admiral Kizaru and Tautu 3, and couldn't help clenching their fists. 3 on 1, that's despicable. It's time to clean up the mess and we don't need the Navy. If there is no previous experience, it is normal for the Navy to chase down pirates and besiege with 10 people and 10 people. But the current Yagami Kanto has become the benefactor who saved the island in the eyes of Dressrosa civilians. Seeing that one admiral is not enough, 2 more people will be besieged. For them, their hearts are naturally full of irony. Chapter 129, Shameless Navy, Seriously Injuring Kizaru. The highest combat power requires the assistance of others. Of their discussions were lowered. But for those who are proficient in seeing, hearing, and color, they can clearly capture it. The faces of the 3 people are not very good looking. However, 3 of them are the alternate generals and the current generals, and they did not lose control of their emotions because of this. "Give it up, you won't die for a while." The Crane finally spoke up. Everyone in the Navy thought that Yagami Kangdu would be defeated under the siege of Kizaru and others. Yagami Kangdu's mouth, a sneer appeared, and the blue steam all over his body changed amazingly. That suddenly appeared, a more terrifying aura swept out. At the same time, a crimson giant that covered the sky and covered the earth, like a sea king, appeared in an instant. 10-fist sword, 8 Tatar mirrors. Wearing the black Tengu armor, the complete body Susanoo with a ferocious complexion reappeared. Facing the huge sense of oppression, he was as steady as a crane, and his face changed greatly. How is this possible? Peach Rabbit and T-Dolphin were both speechless, and Huang Yuan didn't know what to do. The 8 gods Kangdu, who was clearly about to let them handle it, suddenly burst out with power that was far greater than before. Even the generals like them feel the crisis, and it doesn't matter what other people's reactions are, Yagami Kangdu controls the complete body Susanoo. The 10-fist sword fell ruthlessly and slashed towards Kizaru. Wrapped in sonic booms, the complete body Susanoo opened the 8-door Dunjia formation and restarted, and even suppressed Kizaru. Kizaru had a terrified look in his eyes, and he didn't have time to dodge. In the nick of time, he successfully elementalized. But unfortunately, the damage has not been completely avoided. Boom! With a loud bang, Kizaru was attacked by the violent 10-fist sword and slammed directly into the ground. A ravine hundreds of meters long spread out, and there was a huge sword mark on the chest of the golden monkey, and the whole person went into a coma. Single sword, he defeated the General Kizaru. No one dared to believe what they saw. They thought it was a dream, and rubbed their eyes frantically. Can feel the pain in the waist, they can only believe this reality. 8 gods Kangdu actually possesses the terrifying power to defeat a general in one move. Tautu and Chato were the first to react, looking at Kangdu, the 8 gods, full of caution. No longer the previous confidence, and even a faint hint of timidity. They did not expect that Yagami Kangdu actually concealed his strength. Moreover, one move defeats the yellow monkey, although it happened suddenly. But the yellow monkey is a general after all. To be able to achieve such a level of combat power is definitely not something that the 2 generals can handle. Staff Officer Crane looked gloomy, looking at Kangdu Iori, with some feeling. Yagami Kangdu had displayed such fighting power from the beginning, he would have no shame in asking him to surrender. Now, Staff Officer Crane could only feel his cheeks, hot and hot. But Yagami Kanto doesn't think so. He never intended to slap the face Crane's staff in particular, but it was just the right time. Originally, it was enough to defeat Doflamingo, but who made the Crane staff entangle? It can only exert its strength and crush the yellow monkey. One move defeated Kyabu, and Yagami Kangdu dissipated and turned to leave. T-Dolphin and Peach Rabbit both eyes flickered, and they did not dare to pursue. The yellow monkey is stronger than them, and they are seriously injured in one move, and when they go up, they will send people's heads. In this way, Staff Officer Crane and others in the luxurious lineup made Yagami Kangdu successfully leave because of Kyabu's defeat. The 16th year of the Great Pirate Era in February. King Shichibukai Doflamingo, as well as the Don Quixote family, suffered a full-scale invasion by the Yagami pirates. In the end, the Don Quixote family was wiped out. The captain of the Yagami pirates, Yagami Kanto. He encountered Admiral Kizaru of the Navy headquarters who came later, as well as Chief of Staff Suru, Alternate Admiral Momotu, and Alternate Admiral Chato. And, one move defeated the yellow monkey and went away. News spreads and the world shakes. The realm of the 4 emperors. Red-haired Shanks was drinking wine and holding a copy of the latest newspaper that had just been delivered. Kazuna was seriously injured by a sword. He was slightly stunned when he looked at the newspaper. This was a result that was completely unexpected to him. Who had never shown his true combat power, was defeated by Yagami Kangdu with one move. In the newspaper is not surprising. All the bad incidents in Dressrosa were all blamed on Doflamingo. He also pointed out that Yagami Soto was one of the main culprits in Dressrosa's destruction. Of the headquarter General Kizaru to Yagami Kangdu's plan and sneak attack. Iori Kangdu must be very strong, but it's too exaggerated to seriously injure Kizaru with one move. What's the news? Beckman sat next to him, also reading with a newspaper and smoking a cigar. The redhead was silent for a moment, then threw away the newspaper. The power of Yagami Kangdu was beyond his expectations. No matter what. How to seriously injure Kizaru in one move, everything went beyond his expectations. It seems that the attitude towards Yagami Kangdu will change in the future. Whitebeard territory. This guy called Yagami Kangdu, don't be too strong. The captain of the 4th Division Sachi couldn't be more shocked. The captain of the first team, Marco, also couldn't help staring at the newspaper. The incident of Yagami Kangdu's rioting in Dressrosa is still vivid in their minds, and they have also seen the broadcast content at that time. No matter how powerful he is, he won't be able to seriously injure Kizaru with one move. Dad, what do you think? Marco was silent for a moment, then turned to look at Whitebeard. Whitebeard held the huge wine glass, gulped down a sip of wine, and said, "This kid, it's really unexpected. Whatever the reason, it should be true." He shook his head. Yagami Kangdu defeated Kizaru with one move, which was indeed beyond his expectations. A super rookie who has a billion bounties as soon as he stepped into the new world, actually has the ability to defeat a general. It's just astonishing. Beast Kaido shredded the newspaper, slightly annoyed. He really deserves to be my opponent. This kid, he has some skills. Kaido already knew about Yagami Soto, who killed Ginmonkey Keen in his own territory. They are all thinking, don't be too weak for those who dare to provoke themselves. Now, a single move that seriously injured the yellow monkey was enough to attract his attention. Even he is no match for himself. So what's so exciting? Kaido was originally a lunatic, and an enemy that could be dealt with a single move could not bring him a sense of fun. The stronger Yagami Kangdu is, the more excited he is. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 131, Infinite Hell, Shiryu of Rain. Shiryu of the Rain lowered his head and remained silent. At this time, the aftermath of the Overlord conflict also slowly dissipated. In the nearby prisons wondered why their arrogance disappeared. But when I heard the words of the mysterious prisoner again, I suddenly came to the spirit. If I can go out, I must make the Navy headquarters pay the price. I want to kill the warring states. 5 old stars, I'm going to kill them. Prisoners gritted their teeth, obviously full of anger towards the Navy and the world government. But soon, someone slumped back to their place. Since you have entered the advanced city, there is no chance of escaping, so don't be delusional. The only case of escaping here is the Golden Lion more than 10 years ago. However, even if he managed to get out, he lost 2 legs. And after the Golden Lion escaped, the defense here has become even tighter. Many people shook their heads and sighed. For a time, the atmosphere in the entire Infinite Hell became a depression, and the impact brought by Shiryu of the Rain disappeared immediately. The mysterious prisoner doesn't care about the reactions of the many prisoners. In fact, most of the prisoners held on the 6th floor are vicious beings. Wanton slaughtering civilians, destroying island towns, slaughtering a city just because you can't find a drink. Comparison, Shiryu of the Rain is also addicted to killing. But as he said, it's all the garbage at sea that kills. As for the guards, they will kill them later. Anyone who is the chief guard and is imprisoned in the Infinite Hell for a few years, I am afraid that when they come out, they will kill with a knife. The anger and hatred in my heart can no longer be wiped out by 3 or 2 strokes. Your supposition is not true at all, it's just empty hope. Shiryu of the Rain was silent for a while, and then spoke slowly. He didn't know this mysterious prisoner, but he could know who helped him out just now. This love, Shiryu of the Rain took it. At least not for the next days, there is not even a person to speak. Mysterious prisoner chuckled and said, what if there is a chance to go out? I can really go out. Shiryu of the Rain fell silent again. If he can get out, he will definitely make Magellan pay the price. The bullshit chief guard, in the end, just ended up killing the donkey like this. He wants to betray the justice he has always insisted on, even if he joins the pirates. Don't talk nonsense. In a few years, you won't have such thoughts. People in several nearby prisons heard the mysterious prisoner's words, and some people spoke with a hint of sarcasm. Even the golden lion escaped and lost 2 legs. You are far worse than him. The idea of escaping, anyone who was imprisoned, was there in the beginning. But as time passed, only they were eliminated. In the end, the idea of wanting to escape from prison was gone. Most important factor, of course, is that there is absolutely no way to recreate the prison break from the past, even if the golden lion is in it. Garrison is more strict than before, and there is a monster director like Magellan. Ignoring the words of many prisoners, seeing Shiryu of the Rain not speaking, the mysterious prisoner could roughly guess the fluctuations in his heart. If you go out, join my pirate group. The mysterious prisoner said calmly. Hey. Shiryu of the Rain raised his head and grinned slightly. Even though he knew that it was impossible to escape from prison and advance into the city, his eyes flickered and he said coldly, I'm tired of being the head guard. If I can go out, what's the harm in being your subordinate and subverting the world? The mysterious prisoner chuckled lightly and did not continue to speak. Shiryu of the Rain shook his head slightly, not taking the conversation between the two to heart. He also closed his eyes, adjusted his breathing and rested. Shiryu and Magellan of the Rain are known as the Iron Walls of the advancing city. In rumor, the strength of the two is comparable. Magellan's strength is basically the same as that of a Navy admiral, who once killed the Blackbeard pirates by one person. Its forbidden move, the giant soldier of poison, is mostly the awakening of the poisonous fruit. As for Shiryu of the Rain, its swordsmanship. Strong, should not be bad in terms of attack power. Domineering and other aspects should also be close to the general, and the difference should be the fruit ability. Admirals, because of their special fruits, are very durable. Akainu was angrily struck by Whitebeard, and he slammed it into his waist with all his strength. In the end, he jumped out without any problems and chased Luffy. Deal with many captains of the Whitebeard pirates, and even after the incident, he and Chingzi fought in Punk Hazard for 10 days and 10 nights. And being able to fight for 10 days and 10 nights, it can be seen that the physiques of Chingzi and Akainu are not much different. If it was Shiryu of the Rain, if he was hit by Whitebeard's waist, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to bear it at all. Even if they were not killed on the spot, they would be seriously injured and lose their ability to fight. Of course. Even if Shiryu the Rain's strength is inferior to that of the general, the gap is not very big. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, time was like a white horse, and the toxins remaining in Shiryu of the Rain had almost recovered. Almost there. On this day, the mysterious prisoner knew the state of Shiryu of the Rain, opened his eyes, and his eyes flickered slightly. The world has forgotten about him for a while, and it's time to shock the world government again. The mysterious prisoner turned his head and looked at Shiryu of the Rain, who was sitting in the dark. Shiryu, are you ready to go out? Shiryu of the Rain looked up slightly and looked at the mysterious prisoner in amazement. He didn't understand the meaning of the 8 mysterious prisoners, the meaning of being obedient, as if he had a chance to go out now. But he and the mysterious prisoner were both bound with heavy sea tower stone shackles. Even an incompetent person like him can't break free, let alone a mysterious prisoner. The keys are all in Magellan, and no one else can touch them. After being stunned for a moment, Shiryu of Rain still asked in a doubtful tone, how do you get out now that you can go out? Even if I often communicate with the mysterious prisoner these days, I know that the mysterious prisoner is an extremely calm character. He also felt stunned that Yagami Kanto was joking. How to get out? It's impossible. It's simple. Mysterious prisoner chuckled, and what he said made Shiryu of Rain a little unclear. At this time, the prisoners in the nearby cages also heard the conversation between the two. They all blinked, showing amazement and strange expressions. What are they talking about? Is it really impossible to go out and escape from prison? Everyone looked at the mysterious prisoner inexplicably. It's not like there are no people who have been driven crazy by the infinite hell. Could it be that another one is crazy? Just when everyone was questioning and doubting, a crisp sound came out. They were stunned and looked like Yashin Kangdu. The thick sea tower stone chain, like paper, was easily broken by the mysterious prisoner. Under the shocked gaze of the crowd, the mysterious prisoner pulled the chain around his body. Standing up straight, I stretched out vigorously. At the same time, the face that had been hidden for so long was finally revealed. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 132, Tremble, World Government. Iori Kangdu, it's actually you. Who are the 8 gods fighting? Someone saw the face of the mysterious prisoner and suddenly exclaimed. But there are also people who don't know why and ask anxiously. Someone heard the words, immediately. Tell everyone about the amazing actions that Yagami Kanto has done. For a time, everyone who had advanced to the 6th floor of the city, the infinite hell, was stunned. Kill the Tianlong people and provoke the world government and the navy. He even seriously injured the General Kizaru in one move, and then flew away. No matter which record it is, it will be more terrifying than those. Wicked people. No wonder he dared to speak out about jailbreaking. They can sneak into the advanced city without knowing it, and if you want to get out, it is not without a chance. God. Shiryu of the Rain let out a sigh of relief, looking at Kangdu Yagami who walked out of the cage and came to the door of the cage where he was, and blurted out in shock. As for the prisoners in the other cages, they were all dumbfounded, unable to react at all. Guard room. Seeing Yagami Kangdu just come out of the cell, many guards were stunned. Everyone looked at each other, their foreheads instantly covered with cold sweat. Something happened. Quickly report to the director. Infinite hell. Inside Shiryu the Rain's prison, Halushi's handcuffs and shackles fell to the ground with a bang. He rubbed the part of his wrist that was tightly bound, and raised his head to look at Kangdu Yagami. Awesome, as expected of someone who can confront the hard steel world government. He grinned, glanced at the surveillance phone bug, and said, there are surveillance phone bugs here, we have already exposed them, what are you going to do next? You mean Magellan. Yagami Kangdu walked out of the cell, his eyes calmly swept towards the surveillance phone bug. Shiryu of the Rain grinned, with the strength of the 2 of us, Magellan is nothing. However, my sword was supposed to be in Magellan's storage room, and I need to get it back. Hearing Shiryu of the Rain mentioning the sword, Yagami Kangdu's eyes flickered slightly, and said, I have never had a weapon. Besides your sword, are there any other famous swords? Well, yes, I just don't know if you can handle it. Shiryu of the Rain pondered for a while, and said, there is a demon sword in the storage room, if I don't use it smoothly, it is useless. That knife is one of the most powerful knives, if you can use it, it will definitely be of high quality. Hearing that it was one of the supremely fast knives, Iori Kangdu's eyes flickered slightly, and he said, I'm not a swordsman, so it doesn't matter if it goes well or not, you can use it. That's fine. Shiryu of the Rain finished speaking and walked towards the corridor leading to the upper floor. Suddenly, he found that Yashin Kangdu did not move, and couldn't help but wonder, why do you still have something to do? 8 gods Kangdu chuckled and said, if you do this, you will make the whole world lively. Hey. Shiryu of the Rain looked at Yagami's gaze, then glanced at the surrounding cells, and probably guessed Yagami Kangdu's thoughts. But he is. It doesn't matter, and he agrees very much. Anyway, he has been the head guard for so long, and he has been betrayed like this, and it doesn't matter about the release of other prisoners. Yagami Kangdu stopped talking, just stood there, watching Shiryu of Rain leave. This time, the many prisoners in the infinite hell also seemed to have noticed something. They heard the words of Yagami Kangdu and Yuji Shiryu, their eyes lit up. Iori, let me out, I'll be your subordinate. Magellan is very strong. If you can let me out, I can help you contain him. If we join forces, the whole world will be overturned by us. Many prisoners, all those with some strength, began to make noise. Yagami Kangdu slowly turned his eyes away and looked at the prisoners around him. It's a pity. To deal with a Magellan, you don't need your help. But you do have a role to play, and now is the time to contribute. Was a strange smile on the face of Yagami Kangdu, and he waved his hand and fell. Soon, who seemed to have billowing venom flowing all over his body, stepped out of the descending elevator. Looking at the scene in the infinite hell, his face was extremely gloomy. Hell on earth. It seems to have turned into a veritable hell. Inside the cages, blood and broken bones splattered everywhere. Blood gathered on the ground, blood continued to seep out, and a large number of prisoners were killed. Damn. Magellan thought that Yagami Soto's purpose was to free the prisoners to create a chaotic scene. Only now did I realize that I had been deceived. Of the prisoners in the infinite hell have extremely troublesome devil fruit abilities. These people are killed, then the devil fruit will be reborn on the sea. In a way, this is more trouble than releasing prisoners. Iori Kangdu, stop me. He angrily unleashed his arrogance, and captured the figure of Yagami Kangdu in the depths of the infinite hell. Angry roar, he rushed towards the direction of Yagami Kanto. If Yagami Soto releases a large number of prisoners, he is confident that with the ability of the poisonous fruit, he can completely guard the gate of the 6th floor. But Yagami Kangdu didn't release the prisoners, and instead started killing people here, which was completely unexpected for him. Come on. Yagami Kangdu punched out, and another prisoner in the cage shattered under the shock wave. Looking at Magellan, who was rushing in anger, his face was calm. He didn't even remember how many people he killed. This is the 6th floor of the advanced city, Infinite Hell. Who can be imprisoned here are not of the same level as the 4 emperors. But 203 million, or even 560 million, is as many as a dog. Over 800 million, he killed one, and not over 1.2 billion. As for the 200 million, 300 million, and even 400 million pirates, they were basically killed. Poison Dragon. Magellan's eyes were full of anger, and he had no intention of talking to Yagami Kanto. Rushed over, he waved his hands, and the purple poison turned into a purple dragon, rushing towards the 8 gods Kangdu. Infinite Hell was killed like this, and this responsibility must be borne by him alone. Even if Yagami Kangdu is suppressed again, I am afraid that he will be demoted. Susano is the first stage. Yagami Kangdu raised his hand, and a skeleton arm appeared. Turned into a barrier, blocking the madness sweeping the poisonous dragon. Poisonous dragon collided with the arm of the skeleton, and bursts of white smoke suddenly erupted, corroding the arm of the skeleton. Magellan wondered about Yagami Kangdu's defense method, but in the pirate world, all kinds of devil fruits emerged one after another. Even the world government still has a lot of abilities that it doesn't know, which can't overwhelm Magellan's anger towards. Continued to run towards Yagami Kangdu, open his mouth and spit, and a cloud of poison swept away instantly. Poison clouds rushed in from all directions, surrounding Yagami Kangdu in the center. Chapter 133, Advanced City 6, Infinite Hell. Yagami Kangdu raised his hand and it was a hurricane. The terrifying wind pressure swept through, and it was only an instant contact with the threat of poisonous clouds. At the same time, it rushed towards Magellan. That was covered with the Teuton-weighted rock, and slammed it out with a punch. Magellan crossed his arms in front of him. Whoops! Magellan stepped back as the venom splashed. The splattered venom spread toward Yagami Kangdu in the opposite direction, swallowing Yagami Kangdu's body. Yagami Kangdu didn't intend to try Magellan's highly poisonous poison. His eyes flashed slightly, and he jumped up just right, avoiding the collapsing venom. Damn it! Don't provoke Magellan here. Iori Kangdu, you bastard, are you trying to kill us? Some of the surviving prisoners in the infinite hell did not die at the hands of Yagami Soto. At this moment, being affected by Magellan's poison, he couldn't help roaring again and again, but there was nothing he could do. Whoa! Magellan's venom surged from all directions, leaving almost no dead ends. The 8 gods Kangdu summoned the earth to escape the earth, and easily blocked the incoming venom. Magellan became more and more terrified, but still attacked violently. A wave of both hands, a giant soldier made of venom slashed down. The giant soldier barely broke through the perimeter of the earth flow wall, spilled a little venom, and splashed against Yagami Kangdu's face. Yagami Kangdu chuckled lightly, and another water dragon bullet shot out instantly. Poison flow. Magellan's eyes were cold, and he continued to use venom to find a breakthrough. Seeing that Yagami Kangdu seemed to show some flaws, he shot without hesitation. Suddenly, he shouted violently, and the surging venom poured out of his body, rushing towards Yagami Kangdu. Facing the surging poisonous current, Yagami Kangdu raised his hand again. But a master like Magellan, who has suffered a loss once, will definitely not suffer a second loss. The endless venom came one after another, and the earth flow wall just collapsed in an instant. A large amount of venom was shot in front of Yagami Kangdu in an instant. Magellan's face showed joy, and he almost thought that he was no longer the opponent of Yagami Kangdu. It was just his smile that soon solidified on his face. Seeing that the venom was about to sweep the Iori Kangdu, a strange scene appeared. In front of Yagami Kangdu, the void is distorted visible to the naked eye. The surging poisonous stream was like being swallowed up by an invisible giant in an instant. Large amount of venom poured into the void of the black hole, without causing any damage, all disappeared. Magellan was shocked, but still had an instinctive pronunciation. The whole person suddenly dodged aside, opened his mouth and spit at Yagami Kangdu. A large number of poisonous balls appeared and swept towards Yagami Kangdu. Facing Magellan's attack, Yagami Soto stretched out his hand to call out the otherworldly space. Of Samsara I seems to be suppressed directly after one piece. There is only one left of the 4 different dimensions, and it is extremely easy to deal with Magellan's venom. The space was stirred by Yagami Kangdu, forming a small black hole entrance. That hit was completely swallowed up by this vortex. Boom! At the same time, Yagami Kangdu compresses all the poisonous clouds, poison and poisonous balls that he swallowed. An inky black sphere appeared instantly and smashed towards Magellan extremely fast. Magellan's face changed slightly, he realized that the dark substance was his poison. But the concentration in it has been compressed to an astonishing level. Even if it is him, once he touches it, it will only result in death. What a strange power. Avoiding the mass of matter in front of him, Magellan looked at Iori Kangdu with a sullen face and muttered to himself. Just as he was about to move on, Yagami Kangdu's figure was no longer in place. Whoosh! I saw Yagami Kangdu taking a step forward, and a strange force swayed away. The figure disappeared suddenly, just ripples in the void, and then Magellan felt his scalp tingling. A tyrannical force surged from the top of his head. A threat made Magellan raise the fear of death. How is it possible? Magellan's pupils contracted suddenly. His knowledge is domineering, and his cultivation is already extremely powerful. So, he couldn't capture Yagami Kanto's movements. Facing the sudden punch of Yagami Kangdu, Magellan had no other way to resist. Passively stimulate the domineering of the armed color, and the power of the poisonous fruit to protect the body, and wave the arm to block. Boom! Yagami Kangdu fell with a punch, the venom splashed everywhere, and Magellan flew out upside down, pushing into the city prison storage room. This is where the prisoners' weapons are placed, as well as some special items, such as the antidote for Magellan's various poisonous venoms. Shiryu of the Rain killed the guard who was guarding the gate and kicked the main gate open with a bang. I came to the storage room. I wasted little time and walked in one direction by instinct. Soon, he saw the sword that was placed on a shelf and had been stained with some dust. 21 workers of the Big Fast Sword, the second generation of ghosts. Don't you know how to take good care of me? Removing the second-generation ghost, he dug out from the cabinet a handkerchief, and wiped the dust off the hilt and scabbard. Pulled out the blade again. Nodded, and hung it on his waist. Retrieving his sword, he turned his head and glanced at the storage room. Skillfully opened a cabinet, took out a cigar and a box of matches, lit the cigar and took a sip. Phew! After exhaling a puff of smoke, he walked to the depths of the storage room. After passing through several cabinets, a closed door appeared in front. Shiryu of the Rain came to the door, pushed the door open, and walked in. The room is small and has no extras. The only thing is, in the center of the room, there is a sword that exudes a strange aura. The 12 workers of the Supreme Sword. Demon Sword Village Rain. The evil spirit contained in it is too strong, and ordinary people will be easily affected and their temperament will change greatly or even go crazy after being touched. Therefore, the world government and the Navy did not include it, but put it in the advanced city prison. A guard once opened this room out of curiosity, but it was affected by Murasama's breath. Carrying it out is just a meal, hacking, and then this room is strictly prohibited from approaching. I don't know if Yagami Kangdu will be affected by his emotions. Looking at this, the sword without a scabbard that was stuck on the ground, Shiryu of the Rain let out a breath of smoke. He is not afraid of the demonic and cursed aura that Murakami carries, but this sword does not match his nature, and he is not used to it. Hey, it's already started. After pulling Murasama out, Shiryu of the Rain sensed the fierce battle that was advancing on the 6th floor of the city prison. No longer staying, he walked out of the storage room and went straight to the infinite hell. The deputy director Hannibal did not dare to stop Shiryu of the Rain, and as for the other guards, they all shivered in front of Shiryu of the Rain. Shiryu is as strong as Rain, but he is a powerhouse at the same stage as Director Magellan. They go up to. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 135, Crazy 8 Gods Kangdu, Crushing the Giant Soldier of Poison. Quote. The poisonous giant. No prisoners were released, and it seems most were massacred. More importantly, Magellan actually used the poison giant in the infinite hell. The ability of the poison giant is almost impossible for Magellan to release in the infinite hell. Once released, it is easy to erode the surrounding area, poison a large number of prisoners, and it is difficult to control. However, this forbidden ability, Magellan actually used it. There is no doubt that it must be the Yagami Kanto who brought him extremely strong oppression. Even, it may be the threat of life that made Magellan use such a forbidden technique. Is it so strong? Shiryu of the Rain looked at the figure of Yagami Kanto floating in the air, and his eyes flickered slightly. At first, he planned to join forces with Yagami Kangdu, but he still had plans to compete for the position of captain. In this world, the strong are respected, and of course whoever is stronger will be the captain. Now it seems that Yagami Kangdu's strength is much stronger than he imagined. At least he himself, Magellan who cannot be forced to cast a giant weapon of poison in the infinite hell. Did you bring it? Yagami Kanto's voice came to Shiryu of the Rain. Shiryu of Rain narrowed his gaze and threw the demon sword Murakami in his hand at Kangdu Yagami. That's it, there's no scabbard, you can see. Clap. Yagami Kanto raised his hand to catch Murasama. Almost. The moment he held the hilt of the sword, a vaguely crazy will bloomed from the sword's edge. Swept over his brain, as if trying to seize the initiative. Killing, tyranny, madness, despair, death. The chaotic atmosphere intertwined, trying to invade Yagami Soto's mind. Iori Kangdu didn't even think about it. The reincarnation writing wheel opened. Yaodao Murray was instantly quiet, and even felt a little shivering. It was as if the demon sword possessed intelligence, but he was actually frightened by the aura of Yagami Kangdu. The breath quickly retracted the blade, not daring to fight with Yagami King again. It's quite obedient. Yagami Kangdu raised his brows slightly and said with a light smile. Shiryu of the Rain is just stunned. Who can explain it to him? Yaodao Muramura, even a top swordsman like him, couldn't make this. Yaodao obedient. Kangdu, the 8 gods, actually took over and suppressed it. Hey, are you looking down on people? Fortunately, Yukunyu is not a person, otherwise Shiryu of Rain would definitely ask him to question him. Demon Sword, Shiryu of the Rain, are you crazy? Magellan reappeared from the venom, and when he saw the sword in Yagami Kangdu's hand, he burst out. Shiryu of the Rain took a cigar in his mouth, took a sip, and said in the smoke, "The crazy world government has abandoned me. Don't blame me, don't you understand the truth, Magellan?" Cut. Yagami Kangdu holds Murasama in his hand, like an arm. A light slash swiped down, and the sword glow of fear swept out. Space seemed to be split, and madness swept away in the direction of Magellan. Magellan already understood that the 8 gods are powerful, and even if it was the first time facing him with a sword move, he would not dare to take it hard. Resolutely turned over to avoid, and once again condensed the giant soldiers of poison. At the same time, he manipulated 2 poisonous streams, one left and one right, to attack Yagami Kangdu. Whoosh! Shiryu the Rain stepped back decisively. He knew the power of the poisonous giant. Once touched by these venoms, that is, he can't suppress it. How is it? Do you need me to do something? After retreating for a distance, Shiryu of the Rain pulled out a half-cut sword, looked around, and asked Yagami Kangdu. 8 God Kangdu said, "Except for you, other wastes are not needed." Shiryu of the Rain grinned and swung out a sword, slashing to death a prisoner who was cursing loudly in the prison. With him and Yagami Kangdu, of course he can go out. It doesn't matter if the 3 generals gather together. Poison Fountain. Magellan's face was gloomy, but he still controlled the venom not to spread too far. At the same time, the whole person slipped silently from the poisonous giant into the venom below. As the venom slid, it came directly in front of Yagami Kangdu and slammed out. The poisonous giant grabbed towards Yagami Kangdu, while he reached out and pressed his hand on Yagami Kangdu's back. "Can you move fast with poison?" As for Magellan's movement in the poison, Yagami Kanto has already seen it. He looked indifferent and stood silently on the spot. It was like being frightened, letting Magellan attack from all sides. "It's done." Magellan was overjoyed. He did not expect it to be so easy. Boom. A bang, the poisonous palm was firmly imprinted on Yagami Kangdu's chest. But only here, bang. A crisp sound followed by white smoke. A huge wooden stake fell apart under Magellan's attack. Substitute. Magellan's pupils shrank, and he blurted out in shock. "After fighting with Yagami Kangdu for a long time, I always felt that the opponent had various attack methods emerging in an endless stream. Thought that Yagami Kangdu was already exhausted, but he always amazed him." Suddenly, the 8 gods Kangdu suddenly appeared in the air. That Magellan's attack failed, the demon sword Murasama in his hand suddenly stabbed towards Magellan. Magellan ducked back without hesitation. But just as he stepped back, ripples appeared in the space again. The sword, which was clearly about to fail, pierced through the empty void and continued to stab at his body. Magellan's pupils shrank suddenly. He clearly avoided the attack. But the perception of seeing and hearing is that the sword passed through the distance that it should not have passed in some strange way, and appeared in front of his chest. Under the horror, Magellan had no time to dodge, but could only parry with his arms. Yagami Kangdu's sword stabbed Magellan's arm, piercing through the opponent's arm, domineering and piercing Magellan's arm. What kind of power is that? Shiryu of Rain, who was not far away, looked at this scene, and her pupils shrank slightly. In his perspective, the sword of Yagami Soto suddenly disappeared. Then, it seemed to appear suddenly. Even if you have the arrogance of seeing and hearing, you can't perceive it. It's just unheard of. Damn. Magellan with a sword in his arm, dashed backwards in venom. The venom spreads to Yagami Kanto along the sword's edge. ZZ. Venom tried to erode Murasama, but Murasama, as the supreme sword, couldn't easily destroy it even if Magellan's poisonous ability was awakened. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the ultimate sword. Captain, we should go. Shiryu of the Rain recognized Yagami Soto's identity and reminded in a low voice. The poisonous mist of Magellan has eroded the entire infinite hell, and it is not in our interest to continue to stay. The Navy and the world government should also react. At this time, the infinite hell was already covered with poisonous fog. Yagami Soto also used Susano to isolate the poisonous mist. However, when poison's ability to awaken as the battle goes on, it will always make the situation begin to notice subtle changes. Master tricks, tricks fatal. Unnecessary risks. Shiryu of the Rain felt that there was no need to take them. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 136, General Aokiji, Ice Age. Well, then let's end it. Yagami Kangdu chuckled lightly and put away the demon sword Murasama. Red steam appeared, and a terrifying momentum swept across Magellan. At this time, Magellan could no longer control his emotions. After fighting for so long, Yagami Kangdu actually hides his strength. This is really a rookie with only 1 billion Bailey's bounty. He is stronger than the general. It's just a joke. Those guys in the world government doing. But no matter how surprised Magellan was, he could only manipulate the giant poisonous soldier, wave his huge fists, and try his best to resist. The poison giant soldier collapsed in the blink of an eye in the hands of Yagami Kangdu, who opened the door of death and broke out the 8-door Dunjia formation in an all-round way. Magellan's body was like a rag sack, and flew out like crazy. Yagami Kangdu stepped forward, followed Magellan, and threw a punch with his left hand. And Shiryu of Rain felt his heart skip a beat. Magellan gritted his teeth and folded his arms. Even with the guard of armed domineering, he was instantly knocked into the air. Blood spurted wildly, and his body quickly flew backwards toward the depths of the prison. Let's go. Yagami Kanto laughed lightly and came to the entrance of the infinite hell. Shiryu of the Rain has long been waiting here, and the infinite hell is filled with dark green poisonous mist. Although Magellan tried his best to control the poisonous mist from pouring into those cages, he had already been so angry that he could not control it perfectly. It seems that Magellan can't be the director. Shiryu of the Rain grinned at the miserable situation in the infinite hell and left behind Yagami Kanto. Don't try to escape. Magellan's roar came rolling in. Accompanied by a large amount of venom, it rushed towards the entrance. A cold light flashed in the eyes of Yagami Kangdu and Yuji Shiryu, and they turned around almost at the same time, waving their attacks at the same time. Boom! A shock wave of sword energy and punch blasted into the venom. The shock wave of Yagami Kangdu blasted away the venom and landed on Magellan. And Shiryu the Rain's sword also slashed at Magellan's chest at the same time, leaving a terrifying bloodstain. Magellan flew out again and fell into the depths of infinite hell. Should not die. What about him? Yagami Kangdu and Yuzeliu looked at the poisonous mist that filled the infinite hell, and withdrew their gazes. The two turned around at the same time, leaving 2 backs imprinted in the history of the city's humiliation. On the 5th floor of Advanced City, the entrance to the 6th floor. The deputy director led a large group of jailers to guard here. Seeing the appearance of Yagami Kangdu and Yuji Shiryu, everyone's expressions froze and their faces were full of fear. Headkeeper Shiryu, no, Sinlu, and the criminal Yagami Kangdu, what have you done to the chief? Hannibal held a weapon, but his voice was full of trembling. This trace of fear did not come from Kangdo, but the accumulated power of the Rain. Shiryu's guard still remained. Shiryu of the Rain let out a sigh, and a strange expression appeared on his depressed face. Who knows? He turned to look at Yagami Kangdu, and Yagami Kangdu's eyes were even calmer than his. In the next instant, the two rushed forward at the same time. Kill Wush. The shrill screams and terrified voices swayed here in an instant. In the face of the battle strength of Yagami Kingta and Shiryu of the Rain, even if many guards were armed with special weapons such as the sea-floor stone net, they would not have any resistance. Fighting is a slaughter that destroys the dead. The two started from the 5th floor and pushed all the way up. Wherever it goes, no one can stop it. Pushing the city, it just turned into a real hell in an instant. At this moment, a golden light flickered from the entrance of the infinite hell. Kizaru arrives. It's General Kizaru. Shiryu of the Rain pulled out half of the blade without showing any fear. A long time ago, he had played against Kizaru and others who had not yet become generals. Now, although I haven't played against each other for many years, I don't have any fear. Even if he can't beat him, if he wants to leave, it will not be so easy for Kizaru to stop him. What's more, Kizaru was once seriously injured by the Iori Kangdu. Even if there is something tricky about it, being able to defeat Kizaru in one move is enough to illustrate the strength of Yagami Kangdu. Yagami Kangdu saw Kizaru, and turned to Shiryu of the Rain and said, "Are you sure I can stop Kizaru? I plan to kill Magellan before leaving." As soon as these words came out, Shiryu of the Rain was speechless. He felt that he was already crazy enough, but he didn't expect the madness of Yagami Kanto to be even higher than him. Whether it's mentality or personality, Yagami Kangdu is a more ruthless character than him. Kazuna had already sensed the tragic situation in the advanced city prison, and only felt the pain in the skull. Especially when he saw Yagami Kangdu, his pupils were not easily discernible. In the original battle, Kizaru was really careless. If you are serious, you will never be seriously injured by a single move. Is a general-level combat power, but after all, it has been defeated. As leisurely as a yellow monkey, now seeing the 8 gods Kangdu, there is a shadow in his heart. There is always a feeling of intimidation. In particular, he heard that Yagami Soto actually wanted to kill Magellan. Agami Kangdu, this is the advanced city, and if you want to kill the director, it's too much. Since it's out, don't expand the matter. Going against the whole world government and the navy will not end well. Kizaru said as calmly as possible. But when Shiryu of the Rain heard the words, he suddenly looked at Kangdu, the 8 gods in surprise. Thought that a single move seriously injured the yellow monkey, but it was just a rumor. Now, it looks like it's true. Judging from what Kizaru said just now, it's obvious, to show weakness, the 8 gods Kangdu. Other words, if Yagami Soto is willing to leave, there is absolutely no problem. Yagami Kanto just chuckled, and then disappeared. When he reappeared, he was bubbling with blue steam, and appeared on the left side of Kizaru. Punch of the Day Tiger slammed out fiercely, and the shock wave of terror hit the rib of Kizaru. The complexion of the yellow monkey changed greatly, and the whole person flew out. Smashed into the walls of the advancing city and disappeared. In the wall proved that he had been there. Shiryu of Rain. Now, can you stop the yellow monkey? Yagami Kanto turned his head to look at Shiryu of the Rain and smiled. The corners of Shiryu's mouth twitched slightly, not knowing what to say. And at this moment, a bone-chilling coldness suddenly swept over. Pushing the sea outside the city, it turned into a glacier in an instant. Countless frosts continued to spread, and Chen Haoj, the 8 gods, Kangdu and Yu Ziliu, swept through them. It's Qingzi! Shiryu of the Rain exclaimed, followed behind Yagami Kangdu, and rushed out of the advanced city. At this moment, the outside world has long been a vision of the world of ice and snow. Qingzi was standing on top of the glacier, half of his body turned into ice, and he exhaled a white mist. Chapter 137. Aokiji, Kizaru, are you selling your teammates? Whoosh! A golden light flickered from the sky and fell not far from the ice surface. There was blood overflowing from the corner of Kizaru's mouth, and an old face turned pale in a hurry. Qingzi's eyes shifted to Kizaru, and he frowned and asked, "How did you do this?" Quote. Yellow Monkey's mouth twitched slightly, and he didn't know how to explain it. Too embarrassing. I can't say that I was blown away by a supernova with a reward of 1 billion yuan. Let's go. Yagami Kingdo glanced at Aokiji and gave up his plan to kill Magellan. After all, there are 2 generals, and there are countless navies and warships gathered together. Even if Iori Kingdo is powerful, once he is trapped in someone else's territory, his life and death are unpredictable. Go. Shiryu of the Rain was afraid that the Yagami Kingdo would go crazy, so he insisted on staying with the 2 generals. Shiryu of the Rain is afraid of is not the 2 generals. But then, hundreds of thousands of navies kept running. It's not unreasonable that ants kill more elephants. Both of us are here, there's no reason to let you go, so stay. Words fell, and the whole person rushed towards Yagami Kingdo and Shiryu of the Rain at a very fast speed. He has no impression of Yagami Kanto, but he still understands Shiryu of Rain. Therefore, out of self-confidence, I don't think that I can't keep the 2 of them together if I join forces with Kizaru. Icicles. Kacha kacha. The ice cubes spread out from Qingzi's arms, approaching Yagami Kingdo and Yuziliu in the air at a very fast speed. When Yagami Kingdo raised his hand, the day tiger roared out, and the turbulent shock wave easily crushed the icicle of Aokiji. The other side. Shiryu of Rain drew his sword out of its sheath and appeared behind Qingzi. Ah la la. Qingzi's body had a crack from the waist and was chopped into 2 pieces. However, seeing and hearing the color of Shiryu of the Rain captured the movement, and evaded the slash by elementalizing in advance. At this moment, Kizaru also turned into a golden light, and suddenly appeared in front of Yagami Kingdo like a flash. With 1 foot flashing light, he kicked violently towards Yagami Kingdo. Boom! This foot, very strangely, penetrated through the body of Yagami Kingdo, and a laser burst out from Kayabu's feet. The laser bombarded the ice below, causing a violent explosion. A look of astonishment flashed in Huang Yuan's eyes. Avatar is wrong. What I saw and caught was obviously the real body. Just when Kizaru was stunned, Kingdo's figure suddenly appeared strangely. Bang! Yagami Kingdo slammed out a punch, and the complexion of the day tiger and the yellow monkey changed, and he quickly used the armed color to defend. Arms were folded in front of him, but the destructive power of Hiroto's impact exceeded his expectations. The whole person flew out uncontrollably, and smashed into the ice with a bang. Hey, what are you doing? Qingzi came up with a big move, trying to suppress Shiryu of the Rain as soon as possible. Result, Kayabu faced Yagami Kingdo, and he was knocked out of the water in one face. I didn't let it go like this. Usually it's okay to be a fool, but now it's time. Can't see the seriousness of the matter. Go on. Yagami Kingdo punched Qingzi from a distance, cooperating with Shiryu of Rain's pincer attack. In the face of the attacks of Yagami Soto and Yuziliu, Aochi had no choice. It can only be temporarily blocked by the ice wall, and then retreat downward to avoid the pinch. At the same time, just when Yagami Kingdo and Shiryu of Rain got rid of Qingzi and Kizaru in an instant, Magellan rushed out of the advancing city. Between his chest and abdomen was a ferocious wound cut by Shiryu the Rain. The hasty bandage wrapped around it for a while, but the blood was still there, seeping out. Poison flow. Magellan drank lowly, and the venom rushed towards the Yagami Kanto and Shiryu of the Rain. Seeing Magellan's injury, Qingzi showed a hint of worry in his eyes. This wound was obviously cut by Shiryu of the Rain. It seems that Shiryu of the Rain has improved a lot over the years. Magellan, how are you? For the time being, we can do it. Magellan's face was gloomy, looking at Yagami Kingdo and Shiryu of the Rain above, and said solemnly, "It's my responsibility not to guard the advanced city well, but it must not be allowed." The 2 of them escaped. Qingji responded and jumped up. In midair, in the blink of an eye, a huge ice ball appeared, wrapped in huge wind pressure, and smashed at Yagami Soto and Yuji Shiryu. At the same time, he turned his head and said to Kayabu, who rushed out of the ice, Pelusolino, it's time to be serious, I will leave it to you. Quote. Kizaru opened his mouth. He always felt that Chingzi seemed to have made a mistake. What is Yagami first handed over to you? Don't say it so easily, okay? In battle, there is not so much time to talk. Especially when Kangdu Yagami and Shiryu of Rain were evacuating together. Just as the ice puck was smashed, Chingzi joined Magellan and rushed towards Shiryu of Rain. And Kizaru faced Yagami Kangdu alone. Don't get excited. Kizaru swallowed saliva subconsciously, and his wrinkled face shook as a reminder. Yagami Kangdu chuckled, using the earth to escape the dungeon without summoning the earth, trapping the yellow monkey inside. At the same time, the divine power was displayed, and the whole person entered a different dimension. When Kayabu smashed the dungeon and did not come out, a sharp whip came towards him. Kizaru thought to himself that he was sufficiently vigilant about Yagami Kangdu. But Iori Kangdu's endless bizarre methods still slowed Kizaru's response by half a beat. The power of the gods is close to teleportation. Even the domineering can't catch the whereabouts, it is called a ghost. Bang! Facing Yagami Kangdu's strange movement and speed, Kizaru didn't know how to deal with it for a while. Can only be forced. Once again use the armed color domineering parry. The result was obvious. Facing the physical strength of Yagami Kangdu who opened the seventh shock door, Kizaru was blown away again. Chingzi is full of black lines. He teamed up with Magellan, who was seriously injured, and was just about to suppress Shiryu of the Rain. Just a glance, Kizaru was blasted away again. It's fine for one time, and it's the same for the second time. Can this be beaten? Kizaru smashed into the advancing city, leaving Chingzi and Magellan, who was seriously injured, obviously blocking can't stop Yagami Kangdu. Yagami Kangdu and Yuziliu joined forces to get rid of them easily and swept toward the distant sky. Due to Magellan's serious injuries, he was unable to catch up. The poisonous fruit is very useful in a closed environment like the advanced city. On the outside, it's obviously a lot worse. Aokiji alone, facing a Shiryu of the Rain, is not very sure to stay. Not to mention, there are people like Yagami Kangdu. Therefore, Chingzi could only watch helplessly as Yagami Kangdu and Shiryu of the Rain team up. Him and Magellan to the ground at the same time, and then swept to the distant sky, turning into two black shadows. A golden light flashed out from the advancing city, condensing the shape of a yellow monkey. Seeing Magellan lying there and Chingzi standing there, he was a little stunned for a while. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 138, I have a bold idea. The person ran away. Chingzi looked at Kizaru, and asked him with a gloomy expression, you are too much, don't you know what Yagami Kangdu means to the world government? Huang Yuan's face trembled slightly, trying to explain something, but couldn't say anything. After a long while, Huang Yuan wrinkled a bitter face and said, it's really not me who released the water, it's that Yashin Kangdu is too strong. If you don't believe it, you can ask Magellan. Chingji looked at Magellan expressionlessly. He only thought that the yellow monkey was a sophistry. But Magellan himself was seriously injured, but he was forced to come out to intercept Yagami Kangdu and Shiryu of the Rain. Now that the mission failed, the energy went down, and he fainted directly. Kizaru looked down at Magellan, who had passed out in a coma, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. So good that he doesn't die, and now he's in a coma, and he can't wash himself even if he jumps into the Yellow River. Looking up, he saw Aokiji's questioning eyes again. Helpless, Huang Yuan could only spread his hands and choose to shut up. Come and report. Chingzi sighed helplessly, and did not argue with Kizaru. At the same time, he shouted at the hesitant advanced city guardian, what are you doing, why didn't you call the medical team to come up? Seeing that Chingzi and the others did not catch up, Yagami Kangdu slowed down after flying for a while. Where to go next? Shiryu of the Rain looked at the Yagami Kanto. From the previous battle, he has already judged that he is not the opponent of Yagami Soto. The gap between the two is too obvious, and the strength of Yagami Kangdu is more than that of Chinzi Kyabu. Since Yagami Kangdu is stronger than him, he doesn't mind being the number 2 person. The record pointer that I asked you to find before. Yagami Kangdu asked Shiryu of the Rain back. When Shiryu of the Rain went to get the sword, he asked Shiryu of the Rain to carry a recording pointer. When Shiryu of Rain heard the words, he took out a recording pointer from his pocket and threw it at Yagami Kanto. Single arrow permanent pointer. Yagami Kangdu looked at the recording pointer, his expression suddenly changed subtly. He looked at the direction the pointer was pointing, and combined with the position of the advanced city just now, his face suddenly turned a little dark. Shouldn't this be a permanent pointer to the Navy headquarters? What? Do you have any other record pointers? Yagami Kanto looked at Shiryu of the Rain with a dark face. Shiryu of the Rain shook his head and said, I just took this one, why can't I use it? Yashin King twitched the corners of his mouth. It can be used, but this record pointer points to the Navy headquarters. Quote. Shiryu of the Rain's face suddenly stiffened. He also has record pointers for navigation and so on. Shall buy. This record pointer is also a handy one, which seems to be a serious problem. How about going back and getting another one? After hesitating for a while, Lu asked Yagami Kanto. Yagami Kangdu said, I don't care, that is. Do you have the confidence to face Aokiji and Kizaru? Indeed. Of Shiryu of the Rain and Yagami Kangdu are two completely different things. In my opinion, just go to the Navy headquarters. Yagami Kangdu held the recording pointer, and after thinking for a while, the cold light in his eyes flickered slightly. Then it's better to go back and get another one. Shiryu of the Rain changed his face when he heard the words, and said, Where is the Navy headquarters? Don't you know that even if you are stronger than Aokiji and Kyabu, it's no different from courting death just for the two of us? Hee. Iori Kangdu chuckled and said, Since I can sneak into the advanced city to save you, will I force my way into the naval headquarters without even thinking about it? Shiryu of the Rain retorted, That's because you haven't been to the naval headquarters, and the energy contained in it may exceed your expectations. Whether it is Sengoku, Garp, or even Akainu and a large number of lieutenant generals, etc., the combat effectiveness is amazing. So what? Yagami Kangdu shrugged at Shiryu of the Rain, and said, If you just leave like this, won't the world government look down on it? What's the matter? You have to bring something along the way. Hearing what Yagami Kanto said was so simple, Shiryu of Rain almost believed it. However, seeing Yagami Kangdo's determined expression that he was not joking, Shiryu of Rain could only shrug his shoulders. I sacrificed my life to accompany the gentleman. If the two of us are pushed into the city this time, I'm afraid it will be a direct execution. Don't worry. Yagami Kanto chuckled lightly, and led Shiryu of the Rain towards the Navy headquarters. Navy headquarters. Marshal Sengoku looked gloomy as he was answering the information from the advanced city. After being silent for a few seconds, he slowly left the office. Came to the other side, in the United Front office where many lieutenant generals gathered. The entire United Front office, there was silence. Many vice admirals roughly guessed the result from the expressions of the warring states period. No one spoke, everyone was looking at the warring states. Especially Doberman in the corner would like to hear better news. Coming to the United Front office, warring states put his hands on the table. After a few seconds of silence, Sengoku slowly raised his head, looked at the many lieutenant generals in the office, and said, Iori Kangdu took Shiryu of the Rain. To escape. The infinite hell of Advanced City was severely damaged, and the prisoners and guards on the upper floors were slaughtered. Director Magellan was seriously injured in a coma and is now undergoing emergency treatment. Quote. Sengoku slowly stated the report from the other side of the phone bug. The entire office was silent. Who was sitting next to him, put his hands on the table and put his chin on his chin. Unknowingly, he sneaked into the advanced city. brazenly take away Shiryu of the rain. The general couldn't stop it. The city gate cannot be pushed forward. This case, the rise of the 8 gods pirates, their world government and the navy, can they still stop another Roger? No one dared to think further. The atmosphere in the entire United Front Office was gloomy. No, they should have been dealt with earlier, before they posed a threat. You should start before Yagami Kangdu steps into the Great Route. In the office spoke one after another. But the atmosphere was always oppressive. The horse artillery investigation cannot solve this matter at all. 20 minutes later. Under the leadership of Yagami Sudo, Shiryu of Rain and the two quickly approached the naval headquarters. Are you going to just go there? Shiryu of the Rain had cold sweat on his forehead, and asked with a dark face. So scary. Just after coming out of the advanced city, the naval headquarters must have accumulated a huge amount of anger. But looking at Yagami Kangdu's attitude, he didn't do anything to hide and went directly to read the underlined version of the novel. Please download Fei Lu's novel. Chapter 139, The Symbol of Peace and Order, Malenford. Yagami Kanto was silent and did not speak. It's just that the speed is suddenly faster, indirectly answering Shiryu of the Rain's question. Boom. However, Yagami Kangdu still took measures, using the ability of reincarnation to write the wheel I, to hide the traces of himself and Shiryu of the Rain. Unless it is a person who has cultivated to a very high realm and perceives it carefully, it is absolutely impossible to detect any abnormality. That was getting closer. Shiryu of the Rain was a little worried. Although he knew that Yagami Kanto had his reasons for doing this, he couldn't help but worry. However, when the two fell to a corner of the naval headquarters port, Shiryu's face turned strange. No one found out. No, it should not be said that no one found out. But they seemed to be invisible. Everyone else looked over, but they turned their heads like they didn't see anything. I distorted the space. At this moment, we are in a different dimension, and others can't find us. It was only at this time that Yagami Kangdu calmly explained to Shiryu of the Rain. For someone like Shiryu of the Rain, Yagami Kangdu did not think that he could forcibly conquer by force. Only by showing enough bright spots, let him feel that there is hope for him to follow him in the future. Of the Rain swear to follow him. In Shiryu of the Rain, there was roughly a guess in his heart. But after hearing Yagami Kangdu say it, his eyes were still flickering, and there was deep fear in his heart. Fortunately, Yagami Kanto is now his own captain. The stronger and more mysterious, the better. He didn't want to follow a useless captain. Shiryu of Rain looked at the warships docked in the port and said, "This is the port, your purpose is to win the warship." Yagami Kanto nodded slightly. Speaking, his eyes flickered with light that made Shiryu of the Rain dizzy, and said, "But since you have come to the Navy headquarters, you can't just leave like this. What else do you want to do? This is the headquarters of the Navy, and it's okay to steal warships. There are reasons. Seems that if you want to do something, if you are young, you can do whatever you want." Shiryu of the Rain had cold sweat on his forehead, and he always felt that his captain was a little too crazy. "You hide first, I'll go in and have a look." Yagami Kanto walked towards the Navy headquarters. Shiryu of the Rain looked at Yagami Kangdu's back with a complicated expression, and there was a trace of sweat on his forehead. Low voice, he murmured, "The world government. Navy, what kind of terrifying enemy you have provoked." Malin Faldo. This is the headquarters of the Navy, and it is also known as the strongest fortress in the world. The circular sea area that two arms embrace, once it freezes into ice, it can form a huge battlefield that can accommodate 100,000 people to fight. Further ahead, is the main square of the Navy headquarters. Yagami Soto's impression of the Navy headquarters is limited to his memory, and this is the first time he has seen the grandeur of the Navy headquarters with his own eyes. Going all the way, even if there are sea captains or even generals along the way, I didn't notice the existence of Yagami Kangdu. As long as you don't turn on the domineering, you can't find Yagami Kangdu. Yagami Sudo flew in midair, just passing over the naval headquarters. The battlefield of the war in the future can be seen in the sight of Yagami Kanto. Very nice base. In the eyes of Yashin Kangdu, and in the eyes of others, it seemed a little crazy. When he came out of the advanced city, what he wanted to do most was to destroy the naval headquarters. With a silent trace of convergence, Yagami Kangdu fell to the corner of the fortress. In a secluded corner, he found a lone navy colonel and twisted his neck from behind. Gotcha! After killing the colonel, Yagami Soto changed into the other's clothes. At the same time, he used ninjutsu to change his appearance and body shape, and then lowered the brim of his hat slightly and walked into the naval fortress. The interior of the fortress is very quiet, with a hint of a depressed atmosphere circulating. That Yagami Kanto escaped from prison and took away Shiryu of the Rain made the entire naval headquarters immersed in a haze. Major General, may I ask where is Lieutenant General Karp? Yagami Kangdu came to the high floor and saw a Major General, so he took the initiative to meet him, as if he was looking for someone. The Major General was holding a stack of documents when he heard Yagami Kangdu's words and thought for a moment. It seems that Lieutenant General Garp is not in the naval headquarters. So. Yagami Kanto nodded regretfully. The Major General also seemed to be in a hurry and left in a hurry after responding. Facing Yagami Kangdu, who used ninjutsu to perform illusion, he felt a little strange, but looking at the familiar face, he still didn't think deeply. This is the naval headquarters. As the strongest and most fortified fortress in the world, the vigilance of many navies within it has also dropped a lot. There are very few people who dare to kill the naval headquarters, let alone sneak into the interior. This behavior is no different from courting death. Cap's not here, it's fine. Yagami Kangdu is a bit regretful. But I didn't waste any time. I continued to go upstairs and came to the floor where the Admiral was. The atmosphere here is solemn. As the real core of the Navy, the facilities and rooms here are very spacious, bright and magnificent. He walked forward silently step by step. Soon, he came to Akainu's door. Room is big, but Akainu is not in it. There was only one Major General who seemed to be dealing with some documents. Seeing Yagami Kangdu who pushed in the door, the Major General raised his head subconsciously. General Sakazuki hasn't returned yet, so Iori Kangdu asked the Major General. The Major General shook his head and said, not yet. Yagami Kangdu snorted, walked out of the room without a trace, and closed the door. Next, he went to Kizaru and Chingzi's room. Found that Kizaru and Chingzi didn't come back, and they were still advancing to the city or halfway. Akainu, Kizaru Akainu, all three generals are not here. Navy King Garp is not here either. That is to say, the only remaining powerful combat power in the naval headquarters is the Martial Warring States, and the alternate General Tautucha Dolphin. At most, there is also a retired general, Black Arm Zephyr. There is no challenge. Yagami Kangdu chuckled and shook his head, looking very sorry. More stops, and head towards the port where Shiryu of the Rain hides. You're back. Soon, seeing the return of Yagami Kanto, Shiryu of Rain breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Yagami Kangdu looks crazy, but he is still mentally, somewhat counted. At least, I know that we can't make too much noise in the naval headquarters. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 140th, You Demons. Great Buddha, Wisdom Warring States. Let's go. Shiryu of the Rain couldn't wait to speak. Iori Kangdu chuckled lightly, revealing 8 big white teeth. His smile was very sunny. Shit. In the next instant, Yagami Kangdu directly released the Water Escape Water Dragon bullet. A terrifying water dragon that was close to the forbidden technique level swept out. With a huge roar, it enveloped a large warship in the harbor. Under the sweep of the water dragon bomb, the large warship instantly shattered into slag. A loud sound swept out. Of Marineford can hear it. Shiryu of the Rain was stunned. His eyes widened almost instantly, and the whole person lost his voice. Hey, this is the Navy headquarters. We promised to sneak in, get a record pointer and leave. The sudden change made the whole harbor explode. Numerous navies were stunned for a moment, and then they all showed expressions of horror. A large warship, destroyed. It was a warship docked in the harbor of the headquarters, and it was destroyed by some force. Did it? Who was so daring to destroy a warship in the Navy headquarters? Damn it. Save people. Someone has invaded the Navy headquarters. Level 1 alert. After the generals in the harbor reacted, they all roared. Several major generals and a lieutenant general directly drew their swords and looked around the large warship with great vigilance. At this time, Yagami Kingdu no longer hides traces. She walked towards the front of the harbor carelessly. Shiryu of the Rain's face was trembling, and his heart was terrified, but he still followed. Captain, what do you want to do? Anyujixi's forehead is really unpredictable for own captain. Very risky for the two of them to cause sabotage in the naval headquarters. In the future, we want to rule the world. Guessing Shiryu the Rain's worries, Yagami Sudo responded with a chuckle. At the same time, the complete body Susanoo suddenly appeared. The terrifying 10-fist sword fell, and the harbor made of one of the strongest ore in the world was instantly cut into a crack that was thousands of meters in length and width. The outer side of the ring wall was cut in an instant. You are the captain, you have the final say. Situation already like this, Shiryu of the Rain just broke the jar. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and a sword slashed at the warships inside the harbor. Kai. This sword directly cut two large warships from the center, and even cut an abyss-like crack in the sea below. That's Iori Yagami, and Shiryu of the Rain. The navy on the harbor finally saw Kingta and Shiryu of the Rain. After seeing it clearly, almost everyone was stunned. Didn't these two people just come from the advanced city? Why did they suddenly hit the naval headquarters? However, Yagami Soto and Rain Shiryu didn't give them time to think. The two shot one after another, and Jangwon and Susanoo shot one after another, causing massive destruction. Even the sturdy naval fortress harbor is fragile under the attack of the two of them. Under the continuous attack, a large warship was continuously destroyed. Damn. Stop. Lieutenant General of the headquarters was furious, and roared at the two of Yagami Kanto. Slashed out a sword far away, but that sword chi couldn't even despise Shiryu of Rain, let alone Kingdu Yagami. Complete body Susanoo didn't even go to the defense, letting the sword energy slash at him. Puff. With a sound, the sword energy instantly dissipated. The sharp sword chi couldn't even break through Susanoo's black Tengu armor. Lieutenant General was full of astonishment, but he still shot again and again without giving up. As a result, nothing changed. The most uncomfortable thing is that he can't beat Yagami Kingdu. Rather, he, who is stronger than the Lieutenant General, was actually ignored. What's even more uncomfortable is that even if people ignore it, the attack that he is proud of can't break through the opponent's defense. Just when Soto Yagami and Shiryu of Rain completely destroyed the harbor, an angry roar came from inside the naval fortress. Stop me! Marshal Sengoku rushed out of the top office. In midair, a touch of golden light was already emitted directly, displaying the fruit ability. Animal-type phantom beasts, in the form of a Buddha. The anger in the eyes of the warring states turned into a giant Buddha almost turned into flames. He didn't expect that Yagami Kingdu would team up with Shiryu of Rain to escape from prison, and he didn't expect Yagami Kingdu and Shiryu of Rain to be so daring. After escaping, instead of running away, he came to attack the naval headquarters. Daring. Just don't take their navy in the eye. With the launch of the Sengoku in the form of a great Buddha, a terrifying shockwave attacked both Yagami Soto and Yuziliu. Today's Warring States period is still at its peak. The entire Blackbeard pirates, who had been fighting with one move, vomited blood and retreated, but it was an existence that could compete head-on with Whitebeard at its peak. The palm hasn't fallen yet. That terrifying impact caused the already fragmented land of the harbor to crack open inch by inch. Numerous rubble appeared, dense cracks, broken into small stones. Yatagara mirror. The face of Sengoku's strong attack, Yagami Sudo chuckled and controlled the complete body Susanoo to defend with the Yatagami mirror. Boom! An earth-shattering roar exploded. Under the wrathful blow of the Warring States period and the super-strong defense of the complete body Susanoo. When the two fought against the ruins in the center, they completely collapsed and exploded. That shook the sky and the earth shook the entire naval headquarters. With the defense of the complete body Susanoo, he completely took the blow of the Warring States period. This scene, in the eyes of many navies, they were all stunned. Understood the attack of the Warring States Marshal. How is it possible? Some lieutenant admirals and major admirals of the Navy headquarters looked at this scene with horror. Many of them have followed the Warring States period who was once a general. I have seen the powerful strength of the Warring States many times, but I did not expect that Yagami Kingdo would block it head-on. Such strength is even more terrifying than the rumors. Looking at the Iori Kingdo in front of him, while the Warring States period gritted his teeth, he couldn't help but be shocked by the strength of the Iori Kingdo. He was angry with the blow just now, but he didn't hold back at all. However, this kind of strength, even if it has already surpassed Kizaru and others. But in the face of two generals, it is almost inevitable defeat. It may not be easy to escape, and Sengoku didn't understand how Yagami Kingdo escaped from the advanced city. Could it really be as Chinzi's report said? It was Kizaru's sloppy attitude and didn't take a serious look at how the harbor was destroyed and almost torn apart, and the anger in Sengoku's heart rose again. Of the naval headquarters, and it has been destroyed in this way. He, the admiral of the navy, cannot escape responsibility.